We're going to talk about the structure of the government. We're going to talk about the Young Communist League. We're going to talk about the Federation of Artists, Ministry of Culture, the Federation of Cuban Women. This is more about like mass orgs. So let me just like mass org this out. We're going to talk about the SAF program, which is a really cool program they have there. We're going to talk about the CDRs, the Committees for the Defense of the Revolution. We're going to talk about private business in Cuba. Also, their electoral process, women in government. We're going to show a video of a really cool woman. And then we're going to end it with watching the president speak to us for 20 minutes. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to see Miguel Diaz-Cruz speak to us. Yes, it's going to be great. And then Larry, afterwards, we're going to read Larry. And Larry's going to read Amilcar Cabral. So that'll be our lesson plan for the day. When we raid Larry, we help Larry become a Twitch partner. Yay! I love that. I love that. You want to do a pop culture analysis from a Marxist perspective. Star Trek and go, this is Marxism. Okay, yeah, let's do it. I'm into it. We can do that sometime. That'll be cool. All right. But Cuba is a dictatorship. I'll dictate your ship. Oh, does anybody have any questions before we get into what we're doing today? I do have the tea cooking. I do have spicy allergy medicine dripping all down my nasal everything. The cavities, the mouth, the nose. I'm going to be real until it kicks in. I'm very, very sorry. But hopefully between the tea and my allergy medicine, I'm going to be stellar. Right? I hope. Yes. Yay. Okay, Larry. I appreciate you too. You're doing good work. Your only question is going to be Fork and Zay. Fork isn't bad. Zay will try to kill me. This is part of the issue we're having. But we'll see. If I know Zay, she'll come in and she'll try to sit on the computer and then attack me again. I love that somebody made a compilation of Zay attacking me 3 times in the middle of stream now. You want to be a socialist? Well, you're in the right place. Error 8080. You're in the right place. Okay. This is so hot. We can't eat this yet. Or drink this yet. Okay, so any general questions before we get going? Any questions on content we've already covered about Cuba? Any other general questions? Anything else we want to talk about? My question is, when you get bored, how do you stay? Like in the stream when you get bored, pick up some little hobby to do with your hands. Keep it on in the background or something. I will eat the tea. Lord Oxium, thank you for the gifted subs. Yay, yay, yay. Can we explain why dictatorship is an arbitrary word? Yes. So this is my favorite example of dictatorship for the libs. I'm so sorry. It literally feels like all the medicine is just like wanting to stream out down my fucking face. I don't think I put it up like far enough, you know? Ugh. The cat attack compilation, I think I have reposted on my TikTok and you can see it. So the thing about the term dictatorship is that it doesn't really mean anything. And the thing that really gets me about the word dictatorship is that, first of all, it's a political tool, right? Lobbied at enemies of the United States government. Anybody the United States government doesn't like, they're a dictatorship. Now, the thing that to me, if you're a rational person, should have made you realize this is Iran. We were told Iran is a dictatorship, the Ayatollah is a dictator. And what did we do? We killed the Ayatollah. Like a 90-year-old man, I might add. And then what happened? They named a new Ayatollah, and the government continued because the government has a president and a parliament and a whole elected wing. For the average American, that should have raised questions, right? You should have looked at that and been like, wait, but if the Ayatollah was the dictator, why didn't the whole government just completely collapse once he died? The idea of a dictator is that you have one single person holding everything together. So if the dictator is gone, shouldn't everybody be like, yay, we're free, this one evil bad man is gone? And that didn't happen. That didn't happen because the Ayatollah is not a dictator, right? Because they have a whole entire functioning government system with continuity of government. When somebody dies, the government continues beyond that one man because that one man is not their government. So the fact that most liberals didn't realize they were being lied to in that moment really, I think, brings to question, how are people even trying to define dictatorship? Like, what is the definition we are using for dictatorship? Because theoretically, if one man is dictating at all, then when he goes, you should not have continuity of government. But we see these places do. And we also see that the types of places that are called dictatorships, you know, there are other countries that are allies of the United States that aren't really treated with that same designation. Dictatorship of work. So we're going to see an awesome video from a woman who works in local government, talking about their government and responding to Americans in particular who like to say Cuba has a dictatorship. I've got a great video of her. How do you get gifted to suburbs at random? It is random. Yes. Your allergy has been so bad. Mine have been really bad since I got home. They were really good in Cuba. They've been really bad. My house was full of a little extra cat hair, unfortunately, when I came back. Because I'm usually the one that's diligent about cleaning it up because of my allergies. And my partner was here and has like cat hair blindness. So that has been a little bit bad for me too. But also my allergies were non-existent in Cuba. And then LA, I'm just very allergic to LA. I should probably leave. Why did they call Stalin a dictator? Didn't the USSR fall after he was no longer around? No. So it did last almost 40 extra years. And even the CIA, there's that document we've all seen, right? I can pull it up, though, for anybody who hasn't seen it. There's a document we've all seen from the CIA that's like, the idea of a dictatorship is exaggerated, and people think this because they don't understand how Marxist government structures work, which is true. We don't. Americans really do not understand how Marxist government structures work. So let me show you this for anybody who hasn't seen this document yet. We point to this document a lot because it really does just sum up the U.S. government's approach to this. Even in Stalin's time, there was collective leadership. The Western idea of a dictator within the communist setup is exaggerated. Misunderstandings on that subject are caused by a lack of comprehension of the real nature and organization of the communist power structure. Right? Stalin, although holding wide powers, was merely the captain of a team, and it seems obvious that Khrushchev will be the new captain. Somebody said, have we ever thought about it, how non-white countries get called dictatorships? It really seems like a dog whistle to me. Yes, that's true. You can have a literal king in a white country, in a European white country, and we won't call them a dictatorship. But, you know, this is when I make the jokes. I'm like, oh, these people are being really weird about Asians whenever they're like, a dictatorship like Xi Jinping or DPRK. You know, you're like, this is just weird. You're just being weird about other people's cultures, their other setups. But this also ties into people who want to tell you Marxism is like a white ideology. It's not. It's not. There's been like one predominantly white country with Marxist-Leninist leadership, the USSR. You know, group of countries, the federation. Most other places doing Marxist-Leninism are not white, right? So, okay, what else we got going on in the chat? Ugh. Okay, so this is from Larry. Yeah, Stalin's 4 attempts at resignation. Yes. And lots of people don't know this. Stalin actually did try to step down, and everyone was like, please don't go, bro. Please don't go. Yeah. Be in the sky. Can you elaborate what's meant by the exportation of finance capital when explaining imperialism? I can, but also we have an entire Theory Thursday about it that I recommend you just watch. It's in my video on demands, and it's in my YouTube because it's a little bit long. So I would say definitely check that out. You'll find it if you look up imperialism in my video on demands. It might still be there on YouTube. It's definitely there, and you'll see them. So I think that's good. Okay, what are we talking about right now? We're about to get into the government structure of Cuba, along with a bunch of videos. So let's get started then. Why not? Let's get started. Let me find our little lesson plan for today. I'm looking. Twitch plan. All right. The structure of the government. All right, let's go through my vids. That's what we are starting with. Government. So I'm going to be playing a lot of videos for you guys today of a lot of very, very interesting stuff. And we're just going to be talking about it as we go. Which will be good. It'll give my voice a rest. With all the videos. So the first thing I want to say is that this panel was with some members of the Young Communist League. And they met with us at an art center that was subsidized by the government. So the way the government works is they have their government structure, but they also have mass organizations where you don't have to be in the government to be in the mass organization, but the government helps sponsor and support them. And there's a mass organization for the arts. So you can be in a mass organization for the arts that is funded and sponsored by the government there, but you're not necessarily in the government. Now, the Young Communist League, similarly, is a group of young communists. They are not necessarily the government either. That is also a mass organization. So I think that's just important to keep in mind about how their government works. So they have their actual government structure, and then they have mass organizations that can be joined by anybody that receive government funding but are not part of the actual government structure there. And there's a lot of different ones. So there's one for the arts, there's one for women, there's one for young communists. And remember, in Cuba, anybody under the age of 35 is eligible. They're considered youth there. So these guys are from the Young Communist League. This guy, I believe, is in charge of this one art center that we were at, but this is the guy who's doing most of the talking. One of the videos that got deleted that I'm really sad was this man talking for 10 minutes, and I totally lost it. So, we still have a lot of stuff, though, for today. Oh, Big Gatco, congrats. Hope you get the job.
Significa.
It doesn't mean
que aquellos que no sean militantes de la juventud no puedan pertenecer al
that
movimiento.
those who do not belong to the Young Communist League cannot belong to our movement. On the contrary.
Nosotros claramente tenemos principios para la aceptación de nuestros miembros, pero es muy diverso, es muy plural y no tienen que ser militantes de la juventud, simplemente que tengan, en el caso de la ciencia, ese talento, que les guste investigar de la vida de Martí y, bueno, por supuesto, que compartan los principios de ética del proyecto revolucionario.
It doesn't mean that if they are not members of the Young Communist League, they cannot belong to our movement. We are very selective, as I said, but if the person has artistic talent, even though if that person is not a member of the Young Communist League, can belong to the Hermanos Science Association. And if that person is also writing, researching, presenting papers about José Martí, then can belong to our association of José Martí.
Y si hay alguna duda de cómo somos diputados y además dirigimos un movimiento
I mean, if there is any doubt that of how can we be deputies or member of the National Assembly and at the same time lead movements,
nosotros también a veces nos preguntamos por qué lo somos si con el poco tiempo que nos deja.
sometimes we also ask that ourselves. If we don't have time, well, what are we doing here?
Pero en Cuba, ser diputado no es un empleo.
But in Cuba, being a member of the National Assembly is not a job.
O sea, no somos profesionales del trabajo parlamentario, no cobramos. Los diputados
We
en Cuba
don't
no
get
reciben
any
salario.
salary in Cuba, even if you are a member of the parliament. We don't get salary.
O sea, son representantes de toda la sociedad,
We are representing the whole society there at the parliament.
maestros, médicos, obreros, campesinos,
Teachers,
estudiantes,
doctors,
artistas,
workers, farmers, artists. We are representing those sectors of people.
que entonces sesionan en conjunto a la Asamblea Nacional y se toman las decisiones parlamentarias.
Because when the National Assembly gathers, they take joint decisions and for representing those people and sectors.
Eso nos permite directamente poder llevar al máximo órgano del poder del Estado los criterios, las opiniones. Es la forma que tenemos de representar los movimientos a los que pertenecemos.
And then that allows us to present to the government of Cuba the concerns, the interests of the people we represent. We are like a bridge conveying what they need to hear in the government regarding the people we represent in our organizations.
Y de forma general a la juventud cubana.
And in general sense, we are representing Cuban youth.
Y además nos tenemos que vincular al lugar donde fuimos electos por la población. En el caso de hacer en Santiago de Cuba, o la tierra
But
caliente.
also, we need to be linked to the place where we were elected to represent people in that place. For example, Yasser is representing people in Santiago de Cuba province.
Que es una provincia de mucha historia.
In the eastern part of Cuba and a province that has a lot of history.
Y en mi caso, en Marianao, donde ellos están.
And in my case, I represent Marianao municipality, where Martin Luther King Center is.
Así que si les llega alguna queja del agua, de la luz,
So if you have any complaint about the water, electricity, or something, go and see me.
Okay, so there's a lot in here so far. We're only halfway through it. And I just want to explain everything that's been said. First of all, the Martin Luther King Center, that's where we stayed when we went there. Not a fancy 5-star hotel. So, what they're talking about is that these two guys both have two different roles. They both are in the government formally, right? But they also are in mass orgs. And they said, you don't have to be in the government to be in a mass org, and you don't have to be in a mass org to be in the government. We just happen to be in both of them. And they're like, and if you're asking how, we also wonder how, because it takes a lot of time. So, the mass organizations he was explaining, they're like a bridge between the people and the government. So, the mass organizations they're part of the Young Communist League, certainly. They're also part of, let's see if my tea is done being scalding hot. That's good. Okay, yeah, thanks. They're also part of an arts mass organization as well. And they're part of the elected government. Now, the way their government operates is a very standard Marxist-Leninist government structure. It's the same way Marxist-Leninist government structures operate pretty much everywhere. And if you are in a Marxist-Leninist org, odds are if it's big enough, it organizes itself this way too. So, what does that organization look like? Well, you elect people to represent you on a very small level, a neighborhood level. Those people all go together, and then they elect someone to represent them at one level up, like a county level. Those people all come together. They elect someone from their group to represent them at, say, a state level, a province level. Those people come together, and they elect someone from them to represent them at the national level. And that is how you end up with these kind of government structures. Now, in Cuba, there's direct democracy for their assembly. So you can go vote for somebody to just be in their assembly. And you don't have to be a communist or a member of the Communist Party to run for assembly. So that's why in Cuba, 10% of the people in their assembly are not communists. And they don't make up the Communist Party. They're not from the Communist Party. The other 90% are from some socialist organization or another. Not necessarily the explicit Communist Party, but other ones as well. So the party in Cuba, just like in every other Marxist-Leninist place, different than the government. So you can be in the party and not in the government. You can be in the government and not in the party, right? There's the party, and then there's the government. So we'll actually talk to a man who's not a communist later. He doesn't say it in the video, but we talked to him afterwards, and we learned he was not a communist, and we'll hear from him. He is a business owner. He's part of the people. 20% of the enterprise in Cuba is privately owned, and he owns a business. He is petite bourgeoisie. He wants capitalism. He likes Donald Trump. He's one of the 10% on the island. So we will also see in a video from the head of the Young Communist League, who's the woman on the far left in this video that we have pulled up on the screen right now. She says, I can't say everybody in this country is a communist or a socialist. You can't say that anywhere, but she says most people are. When she says most people, 90% of people in Cuba are socialists. 10% aren't. That's just how it goes. So when you talk to people and they say, well, my grandma lived under the USSR and under communism in the USSR, she hated it. We're like, yeah, maybe she did. She would have been the minority, though, not the majority, right? Because we know most countries, most people who experienced communism preferred it to capitalism. And that's the same thing in Cuba. Most people there, 90%, which is massive, prefer communism, right? Yes, so long as part of the revolution is remolding people into communists, yes. So this is what people think. Oh, not my grandma. I said, you know, when people say that. Oh, but then you're like, well, what did your grandma do? I mean, that's the question people always ask, though. Yeah. And so we see the guy who's like, I like Donald Trump. I want capitalism. He's a business owner. He's part of the 20%. And the government of Cuba, to operate private enterprise there, which we'll see in a bit, they make them give back to the community a lot. They really stifle how much you can grow, and they put a lot of obligation and pressure on you to give back to the people in your community. That's bad for the business owners. They don't like that. So they're not so much, the actual communists in society. So what they're really talking about here, again, I just want to make sure it's very, very clear. You have the party, and you have the Young Communist Party, you have the regular Communist Party. Young Communist Party is anybody up to age 35. Okay, that's fine. Then you have the government. The government structure is not the same as the party. People in the party can be in the government, but most of them aren't. People in the government can be in the party, but they don't need to be, right? 10% of people elected to their General Assembly, not communists. As Virgo said, yes, American media is doing its best to present that 10% is the majority here in America. Yes. And people will tell you, oh, you're talking to propagandists, not real Cubans. I'm sorry. Most Cubans are socialists. They are. They like socialism. And that is why Cuba is such a threat to the United States. That is why we spend so much effort trying to crush Cuba. Because they love socialism there. They do. And that doesn't mean we didn't talk to people who didn't love socialism. But the majority of people there love socialism. And they'll tell you, yeah, there's some people here who don't. But we do. We mostly do. And that's just the facts. That's just the reality of Cuba. And most places that do socialism, most people like it. So you have the party. The woman on the left is part of the Young Communist League. That's a party affiliation. Then you have the government. These two men on the right are part of the government. And then you have mass organizations, which are broken up usually by topic, right? There's one for the arts, for example, etc. But they're not necessarily the same as the government, and they operate as a bridge to the government. And these two guys happen to be in mass orgs and in local government. And they're like, yeah, it's a lot. We're really busy all the time, right? And as Larry said, even if they don't exactly understand socialism or communism, they like their government for serving them. Yes, I will say, though, the average Cuban person is far more politically literate than I've seen anywhere in the world. You talk to little kids and they understand what socialism and communism are there. It's wild. Like a 10-year-old child in Cuba has a better understanding of socialism and communism than like an adult political commentator in the United States. Ghosting is how liberals would prop up Miami Gusanos to the oracles of the Cuban people, but refuse to be represented by MAGA. Exactly. And you're like, these are MAGA. These are right-wing people. A lot of this. So next Friday, we're actually going to look at the expat, the Gusano population, the expat, the American Cuban diaspora community. And there's a lot of really interesting stuff we can learn about them. They have their own lobbying group, like IPAC. They are wealthier than the majority of other Latin American diaspora living in the United States. They're whiter. They have a lot of things in common. And they're more conservative. You saw some Gusanos on TikTok attack me. Yeah, I don't even care. They're fucking kookballs. And when you're in Cuba, they do not like those people. Oh my God, they do not like them. They are like, they have no, and you can tell they're trying to be polite, but they're just like, They hate them. So, you think about, well, yay, good job. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to keep playing this because I just wanted you guys to catch those three things. There's the mass orgs, there's the party, there's the government. They are all different. Oh my God, I feel the medication running out of my nose still. I'm going to go grab a little tissue. But also something else interesting that I wanted to point out is that he said they don't get paid for their government work there. You cannot be a career politician in Cuba because you don't get paid for it. You do your normal job and you work in politics. It's a volunteer. It's a service that you provide to the community because you care. And I thought that was really interesting too. 1 second. I'm going to be right back. I'm just going to grab a tissue for I literally have allergy medication like coming down onto my face as we speak from my little sprayer that I did. So just a sec. Okay, hi, I'm back. Sorry. Whew. Okay, so somebody asked a question up here I thought was interesting. It was something about like, are the mass orgs like Soviets? And the answer is kind of, yeah. I think that's kind of a good way to think about them. Yeah, and like he said, they're a bridge to talk to the government, to get things figured out with the government. So let's watch the remaining 3 minutes of this video.
Para que los acompañe el problema.
Se ha sumado con nosotros, ustedes la han visto en
You have
todos
seen this person that just came now.
estos días. Mitty, ustedes la conocen, es miembro del Buró Nacional de la Unión de Jóvenes
You know,
Comunistas.
Alicia, she is a member of the National Bureau of the Young Communist League.
Y por supuesto conduce el trabajo ideológico de la relación internacional.
So she's leading ideological work and international relations there at the Young
Al
Communist
menos
League.
hace el esfuerzo.
At least she tries.
Mitty además igual viene, como la mayoría de nosotros, formada de la vida estudiantil, de los movimientos.
Mitha has been having a background during her student life. She has been formed and trained as a leader since she was a young student. Todavía joven, ¿no?
Sí, claro, todavía es muy joven. Fue presidenta nacional de la FEN, que es la Organización de los Secundaristas.
She was the president at national level of the students that are in middle school.
vicepresidenta de la FEU Nacional,
He was the vice president of the national,
University,
a national level of the students, the University Students Federation.
y presidenta de la Organización Continental y Caribeña de Estudiantes.
And she was the president of the Continental and Caribbean Organization of Students.
Después de esta pequeña biografía, le damos la palabra.
After this small and succinct biography, we give Mr. the floor.
So one more thing I just wanted to point out here, as we listen to them talk. Did you hear that she had been in these leadership positions as a child? And when we talk about the education day next week, we're going to meet other people who are in those child positions that she was in. They said she represented all of the junior high school students at the national level. Because all of those government systems, they also have for children. So they passed a family code with the rights of children, and they literally created a whole government structure for children to be able to participate in government and be represented in government. So the age to vote in the adult elections is 16 years old. But if you're in junior high, you have your own council of junior high school students with that same organization. Now, the way their orgs are actually separated, I told you there's neighborhood level or whatever, usually most Marxist-Leninist stores. In Cuba, they're relatively small. They're around a quarter the size of California, where I live. So they actually have 3 levels. So everything is broken down at what they call a municipal level, a municipality level. Then they have the next high up is a provincial level. And then the next high up is the national level. So if you get elected at your municipality level, everybody from all the municipalities come together in a council, and then they elect one of them to be their representative at the provincial level. And then that person meets with all of the other elected representatives of the other municipalities at the provincial level, and then they elect someone to represent them at the national level. She was elected to represent them at the national level. She was elected at the municipality level. They elected her also from there to be the representative at the province level, and then they elected her to be the representative at the national level. So, and that's as a junior high school kid. As a little kid, yeah. So they take their family code very, very seriously, and they give children a lot of say. Now, the Young Communist League is considered very important in Cuba because of that, and these are the people who actually scheduled our whole itinerary. Because we were technically the youth brigade, even though I'm 39, you know, they consider you up to 35 to be a youth, so I just made the cut. I was late, but they still let me in. Thank you. Because of that, the Young Communist League is who welcomed us as the youth brigade, and they set up our whole itinerary for the trip and took us around to meet people and talk to people. So the question is, what exactly is the difference between these orgs and Soviets? So the Soviets, they had more breakdown based on job, and you're going to see less of that small of a breakdown here, right? So they have like a farmer's one, for example, but you're not going to have one like for, I don't know, like lath operators in fabric mills. And I think the Soviet one, because the Soviet Union was so big, they just had more, they got down into more nuance and more details, right? And they don't necessarily represent just workers. And that's true in the Soviet Union also, right? Because we had women's orgs, we had student orgs. But here they have ones for artists, you know, whatever. So I would say just the scale means that they organize and structure it a little bit differently. If that makes sense. Now, this woman that we're going to be hearing from, she's a big deal. She's a big deal in the youth kind of government structure in Cuba, but also in the party as a communist thought leader. Now, sometimes people get confused, and you'll see this about the DPRK too. They get confused about what the party is versus the government. And the way I try to explain to Westerners what the party represents in a socialist government is think of it as the living embodiment of a constitution. Here in the United States, we have our constitution. Our constitution says this, our constitution says that, right? And you can have people challenge if things are constitutional. You can have the judicial system try to apply justice based on their interpretation of the constitution. In a socialist place, think of the party as the living embodiment of a constitution. They are setting the ideological guidelines they want the country to fulfill. Now, that doesn't mean the government's always going to do what the party wants. And when that happens, the party can't override them. All the party can do is increase their education and outreach and explain, hey, this is why this is important to us. This is why we think we should be working on this as a country. But they don't have legislative power, and they can't override people. Lathe? Oh my God. Ghost pain, thank you. Lathe. It's a lathe, not a lath. You guys, in my pronunciation, you know, I can't pronounce shit. A lathe machine. Thank you, thank you. You were correct, Ghost Pain. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the mini government for kids goes wild. Okay, so let's watch just a few. We have like a minute left on this video. We'll talk about it more.
Bueno, en la Asamblea Nacional hay representación de toda la sociedad civil.
At our National Assembly, we have representation from the whole civil society in Cuba.
La Federación de Mujeres Cubanas,
The Federation of Cuban Women,
la Asociación de Agricultores y Campesinos.
a Small Farmers Association,
Hay representación también de agrupaciones religiosas,
also religious groups are also
de
represented at the
diferentes
national-
gremios religiosos.
from different denominations.
Está también la Asociación de Juristas,
We also have the Association of people who work in the law field.
la Asociación de Artistas y Escritores, pero que ya no son los jóvenes.
And then
los de
there
más
is another
experiencia.
association for artists and writers, but those are the ones that are no longer 35 years old.
La Unión de Periodistas de Cuba.
Also, the Guild of Journalists of Cuba,
Está también la Central de Trabajadores de Cuba
the trade union are also represented
y
there,
varios sindicatos.
and several trade unions from different also areas.
Hay también una pequeña representación del sector privado.
There is also representation of the private sector in the National Assembly.
Y como les decía, hay varios estudiantes.
And as I said, several students are also members of the National Assembly.
I can't make the video any louder. I'm so sorry. A few people have said it's fine for them, and a few people have said it's really quiet. I'm so sorry. That's as loud as all of my settings can go for it. Maybe I'm just really loud. Maybe it's that. Maybe I should make me quieter so it equalizes or something. So you guys heard some of the different types of mass orgs they have, right? They said they have mass orgs for different religions, and not just for religion, but for every individual religion. You have a mass organization for that, right? They had mass organizations for farmers, like we talked about. They also have different levels for a lot of these, for if you're under 35 or if you're over. The Federation of the Arts, they talked about, because we were in a building for the Federation of the Arts that day. They were putting on a festival. Now, funny too, you saw a lot of people, Kneecap put on a concert, and you guys went and it took a power. The Federation for the Arts put on that concert. That's the mass organization of artists in Cuba. They put that concert on, and it was not just Kneecap. That concert was actually part of their regularly scheduled spring festival. So they put on these festivals every season. And, oh, thank you for that, for Lex D62. I'll look into that. Thank you. So they put on these regularly scheduled concerts every season, and most of the show was Cuban rappers. Kneecap just also played. And that was going to happen whether we were there or not. That was a Cuban festival, and it was open to the Cuban public. And that's the kind of stuff that the Federation for the Artists puts on. So Kneecap jumped onto that. They were like, we're happy to have you. Kneecap only played 3 songs, though. Everybody else had full sets. They just invited Kneecap to play 3 songs. At the end, because again, they had been planning this for a really long time, the Federation of the Artists. So just to fight some of the weird misinfo you guys see online too. Now, with that said, I think now we kind of have an understanding of the structure of the government, right? Does anybody have any questions about the structure of the government? We know the party is one thing. We know the government is a different thing. We know the mass organizations are a different thing. We know the government is structured with the municipality level, the provincial level, and the national level for everything. And we know the assembly is considered separate than that government structure, and the assembly is just direct elected by the people, correct? That should be what everybody understands so far. Does anybody have any questions about any of that stuff, though, before we move on? Just want to make sure. Okay, if nobody has any other questions, how much did the government listen to the mass orgs? Okay, that's a great question. They listen insofar as they can. Right? Sometimes the mass orgs will want something that the government can't do. So a great example of this, and this is true of the local government as well. So remember the guy who was like, oh, so you're staying at the Martin Luther King Center. I'm actually a municipal representative of that district. So if you have any problems with things like water pressure, etc., you let me know. And he's like, I can't fix it, but I'll be there to listen to all your problems. Now, the reason why he was like, I can't fix that is because one of the issues they have with water pressure has to do with water pumps. Water pumps are powered by electricity. So we didn't have water for a significant amount of time that we were there because the power grid was down. So they couldn't pump water. So when he's like, yeah, you know, I'm not going to be able to magically fix it, but, you know, listen, they're limited by certain things like that they can't do. Let me see if I can find you guys a flowchart. Let me see if somebody else has made one online. Otherwise, I thought about making one too, but I was like, flowchart government structure of Cuba. The flowcharts that I found made them look way more complicated than I think they needed to be. But let me see if I can find anything that makes sense here. They're all like, they look a little crazy, honestly. Ugh, see, that stuff looks crazy. 1 second. Let me see if I can pull anything up. Okay, I think I found one that does a pretty good job. I also just ran and put my tea on to get another tea. Sorry about that. So this is the one that looks the best to me. So you have 800,000 members of what they call here the Cuban bureaucracy. Then you have your provincial secretaries and municipality secretaries. So you have 800,000 representatives in general in government, which is a huge amount of people, right? 168 municipal secretaries come from that. And then 16 provincial secretaries come from that. So they made this one level. They probably should have made it 2. Then also, though, I feel like this should have been separated out. I feel like I should make my own flowchart. So then they have the party, which is separate, and they have the central committee of the party, which is 97. They're doing this just based on population. And then first and second secretaries of the party are 12. And then, you know, this kind of, I don't know, I don't feel that it totally makes sense, though. Here's this other one also. They have president of the council of the state, vice president of the council of the state, and then they have this, I think, kind of actually makes a little bit more sense, too. But I like the other one because they give you the numbers of the representatives. This gives you a little bit more here. So, sorry, I had to make it smaller to fit on my screen to talk about it. Okay, so over here, municipal government, provincial government, and then it's national above that. Does that make sense? Highlighted message. What was the highlighted? Oh, highlighted message. And then they have social organizations. These would be like their mass orgs right here, right? And then those also have local representation, territorial. So think like municipal, provincial, right? For their mass orgs. That's what this is. And then they have enterprises and industries. So that would be like the farmers association, things like that. You know what I mean? Does this make sense? And then they have organizations of the central management of the state, basically. I think this kind of makes the most sense. And then you have your national government up here, and then you have your assembly, which is directly elected and is separate. So I feel like this makes the most sense, but I did like that this one included the numbers of the provincial and municipal secretaries and showed you that their entire government structure has like 800,000 people in it. Like, people are very involved in government there. So that I thought was good. This also shows you their basically their parliament, their assembly, which is much bigger than we would probably think, and While 442 of them do come from some variation of the Communist Party of Cuba, 28 are independents. So, again, like 90% of people there are communists. And these are voted. These are directly elected, and you don't have to be a member of the Communist Party to run. So 28 independents are currently in there. Does that make sense? Okay, what else can I'll make you guys some more things to spend points on. I'll add more. I'll add more. Think of ideas. Think of ideas to spend points on. And screenshot this, because I think this does the best job of explaining it. Everybody screenshot. Everybody screenshot audios. Okay, I'll look into that. Hegel's Big Dialecticals. Okay. Go live on TikTok and troll for more viewers. Okay. That's very, very funny. You have 44,000 points? Okay. All right. I'm doing it. I'm going to make more. So everybody screenshotted this who was interested. What is the independent politician's political ideology? They're different for everybody. Some of them are into capitalism. Some of them are into more third wayism. Okay, so you guys got that for screenshot. Okay, my tea should be ready now. I also set tea when I did this, so I'm going to go grab my tea. And when we come back, we are going to talk about another one of their programs they have, which is the SAF program. So hold on. I just had this really sadistic idea. What if you had a certain number of points and then you could unilaterally gulag somebody and ban them from the chat? Is that crazy? That's a little crazy, huh? That would be so funny. You get 100,000, you can unilaterally gulag someone if you want. Pay to mod. Yeah. If you get 100,000, I trust you to know what's up. You know what I mean? Social credit system. Yeah, we're going to do a social credit system in the chat. Dictator award. Temporary ban is better. Okay, we'll do temporary ban. Make them do homework. Okay. So, now we talked a little bit about the mass org. So you guys, if I say the Young Communist League, you know what that means, right? That's a group of communist youth that's affiliated with the party. The Communist Party. You know that. If I talk about the actual government, you know that that's different. And if we talk about these mass organizations, you know those are different too. So what we have next that I want to talk about is a program that the government actually put together called SAF. Now, where's my SAF? Where's my SAF video? I'm looking. Bear with me. Oh, here it is. I just needed to scroll. Chat, I just needed to scroll. It was not showing up and I needed to scroll. So, these little buildings that I'm about to show you, this is a 7-minute video. It's a little bit longer. These videos exist in every neighborhood. Or these buildings, rather. And this is where I met a woman who had schizophrenia. And I think these are really, really interesting community projects that they've managed to put together from their government. So we're going to play this now.
This is called the system for taking, it's called SAF, S-A-F, Sistema de Atención a la Familia. Okay? People that are elderly or senior citizens, people who live alone, people who are members of the family go to work the whole day, they can come here to receive some food, lunch, mostly, during the daytime. Okay? You can come and see the place, I say.
Come on in. Don't be shy.
Un poquito feo, The Avengers or something like that, that should be fixed. Okay, this is where those people having vulnerability can come and get some food. You see the post there, Sistema de Atención a la Familia. That's the name. And then the heart is there, you know why? Out of love. ¿Qué pagan las personas que vienen a comer aquí?
Aquí es un sistema, nosotros tenemos 48 asistenciados.
We have in this place 48 people that are considered vulnerable in the community and they have the right to come to this place for their food. 48.
Donde aquí damos 3 injetos. 3 injetos viene siendo desayuno.
They get here breakfast,
almuerzo,
lunch,
y comida.
and dinner.
Donde el costo de esos 3 injetos no llegan a los 20 pesos ni sobrepasan.
For those 3 meals, they don't have to pay, they have to pay no more than 20 pesos.
So just to recap, so everybody understands, these are called the SAFs. They are the Sistema de Atención de la Familia. And what they're saying is that at this one in particular, they have these in every neighborhood. This one serves 48 people in the immediate community. Who is it? It's people who are elderly, people who don't live with anybody, they're at home alone. It's people who maybe have medical situations, healthcare considerations. It's people who just throughout the day would normally be forgotten, kind of. They can go to these centers and for 20 pesos a day, like 20 Cuban pesos, a very, 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 very low amount, they can get all of their meals from these community centers. And they also have entertainment. They can hang out like a social club with other people. So when we went in, there was a few people watching a movie. That's because they go there to like socialize, watch movies, hang out. This helps with their kind of elderly crisis. You know, we have a huge elderly crisis in the United States where I live, where a lot of elderly people are forgotten. They feel very lonely. They don't know where to go in the day. They can't reliably cook for themselves. These are people who would not reliably be able to cook for themselves in the day but don't have a lot of money. And this is where they get to go. And this is all government subsidized. You can gulag me. That's fine. I'll gulag myself for you guys. I'm gone. You take over. So yeah, that's what they're talking about here. And these community centers are really, really cool and very interesting. So we're going to keep listening to them talk about them.
Cuban pesos. Yeah, per day, 20 pesos per day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. 48 people from this community have benefited with this system.
Donde ahora se aprobó por financiar ingresos, tratar de esas 3 injetas llegar a 40 pesos y el país nos subsidia a 14 pesos.
And then, due to the problems we're having, there will be an increase in the price they have to pay. It will be 40 pesos, but the government will contribute with 14 out of those 40. So the increase won't be 40, it will be from 20 to, will be about 26 or something.
El costo sobre esos 14 pesos no es el costo por el asistenciado ni subsidiado, sino es el costo de esos 14 pesos que el país nos está subsidiando, es sobre el costo de la mercancía.
¿Quién lo paga las personas?
Sí, pero esos 14 pesos que nos han financiado nosotros no es por persona, sino es para delimitar y tratar porque el sistema de atención a la familia, por un ejemplo, un arroz crudo sale a 2.20 centavos, y cocinado es 1.65.
The prices, porque le pueden dar a las personas comidas sin cocinar también?
No.
Due to the increase of prices in food and the lack of food, there is a governmental system of finance and prices that is going to use 14 pesos, depending on the report they issue about the people they take care of. They will be assigned 14 more pesos, so the people that come here do not have to pay for them, because they have to pay when they get the food for those products. The manager, the cooks, and the people working here. Okay? It's not that the people have to pay for 14 pesos. Understood? Thank you. Más o menos un día, un menú, ¿cómo puede ser?
arroz,
A menu could be rice.
a veces tenemos picadillo,
Sometimes we have ground beef,
croquetas,
croquettes.
chícharo,
We have peas.
siempre tenemos caldo,
We always have a broth for them.
huevo,
Eggs,
pollo,
chicken,
puerco,
pork.
cerdo.
Pork.
Depende, esos son productos que nosotros tenemos, pero
No, no, we have that every day, but that's
lo
more
que es
or
el
less the
pollo, lo que es
fluctuation.
el pollo y el cerdo siempre.
So I just wanted to point out a couple things from what we just saw. From what I've experienced, there's not a food crisis on the island. A lot of people have said they're starving, people are starving. I've not experienced that. But there are very specific foods they have a lot of, and specific foods they don't have a lot of. The specific foods they have a lot of is meat. It's a lot of meat. They have a lot of access to pork, a lot of access to eggs, not meat, but chickens, and a lot of access to fish. So you hear that when he's talking. He's like, sometimes we get rice, but more than that, we'll have, pork, he's talking about meat. So they have an abundance of meat on the island, so they don't have a food crisis, from what I have seen. Maybe in some rural areas there could be unique considerations, but nobody there was really talking like they didn't have access to food in a meaningful way. There are certain things you can't get. So for example, when we were staying at the Martin Luther King Center, they were cooking food for us every day. It wasn't hard to get food. However, it was hard to get soy milk. And when they found soy milk for me, that was a really big deal. It's hard to get things like ice cream. One day they found ice cream. That was a really big deal. They were really excited. They're like, oh my God, we found ice cream. So I think that's just important context to have. You'll see a lot of people be like, Cuba's starving. Not from based on anything we saw were people in Cuba starving. There are certain things they don't have access to for food, but they have food. So I think that's important just to clarify. Also, my partner said one of their coworkers was like, oh yeah, in Cuba they shoot you if you eat beef. And I was like, what? Like, I have not even heard this right-wing talking point about Cuba. But here we go. This man is like, yeah, sometimes we have picadillo, that's beef. So if you also know right-wingers who think that they shoot people for eating beef, it's not real. I can't believe I'm able to say that's not real. That's not real. They don't shoot you for eating beef. The government will give you free beef sometimes, or very, very cheap beef, if you fit into these community programs. Okay, so let's keep going.
The chicken and pork are more constant.
Malas actividades, cumpleaños, se le hacen aquí colectivo.
But not only is giving food to those people, also, for example, birthdays are celebrated here. Of the member of that group, for example.
Y esto no es, esto es un servicio gastronómico.
This is
Es un servicio gastronómico donde atendemos al sistema de atención al fondo.
so this is a gastronomy service that is linked to this system to take care of the families. Any other questions?
Háblale de a pesar del bloqueo, ¿cuánto invierte el gobierno?
Nosotros, esto fue un saque, se recuperó
This,
gracias al gobierno, al partido.
thanks to the government and the Communist Party, we could refurbish this place. As you can see, it's quite new. They just fixed it recently.
Por la contribución territorial del municipio, contra la contribución
Los
territorial
impuestos de las personas que
de los impuestos.
Also in Cuba,
El sentido no solamente de los impuestos de las personas, sino de las empresas que toman.
enterprises, private people, they contribute with taxes. I mean, in Cuba, a given percent of taxes in a territory are supposed to be spent in that territory. So they also get contribution from the economic factors of the community to fix places like this.
Esto fue reparado
This
y
was repaired recently,
para que el asistenciado se sienta mejor.
so there will be more comfort for the persons coming here.
El gobierno aquí en Plaza, nosotros hemos reparado ya 4 sistemas de atención a la familia.
In this municipality, Plaza de la Revolución, we have already repaired 4 systems like this.
Con casi todo el equipamiento relativo parecido
Okay,
a
and
sistema
what we
televisor.
have here is mostly what we have in the other places: a TV set for the recreation, the fridge, the electric pots and that, the cookers. Gas, the gas, cooking gas, the same.
Y aquí con las mesas, todo eso
And
tipo
then,
de...
that's the one I'm going to
Sí,
do.
todo.
The furniture also was given by the government. Affecting us.
Pero el gobierno y el Partido Comunista de Cuba, además, de conjunto con las organizaciones políticas y demás, no se permiten jamás dejar desamparado a
But
un
the
vulnerable.
government and the Communist Party and the mass organizations, we are not going to leave anyone out of attention. No one will be discarded. No.
So what did the man say at the end? He said the Communist Party and the mass organizations are not going to leave anybody behind. Nobody's going to be discarded. So if you have a mass organization or a party and you're looking around your neighborhood, you're like, something bad is happening, that's when you go to the government and you request these systems. And the SAFs, they took them a long time to develop and they were very proud of them. And this came along with part of their family code overhaul that they'd been pushing for some sort of community resource for their elderly and disabled to go to during the day. And that's how these came about. So that's when they talk about the mass orgs and the Communist Party being a bridge to the government. The SAFs are a great example of that. It was the Communist Party and the mass orgs that noticed this need in their community, and they became a bridge to get the government to do it. So then the government helps them build these things. You heard him say that they had just remodeled them. The government gave them money to remodel it. The government gave them all the furniture for it. It's very interesting. People pay taxes to only cover the SAF of their municipality. I don't remember if they said that exactly, but that would not surprise me. That would make sense to me. But I think maybe what you heard was more them saying that the SAF of their municipality only serves people in their immediate municipality, but I'm not sure. The other thing that I think is interesting in here is that you can go to the SAFs even if you don't qualify for coverage, and you just pay money to eat the food. So a lot of elderly people or disabled people will want to do basically their birthday parties, their celebrations in the SAFs. So their families will come and pay money, and then they'll be able to, that also helps contribute to the SAF's income stream, which I think is really, really interesting, right? So, the SAFs have behind them a fridge, 2 hot pots, a regular, or like crock pots, instant pots, and then like a burner situation for them to cook food. And that's what's going on there. It is really, really nice. It is. So in this SAF, here I'll show you. So here's where the fridge is. You can see the top of the crock pot behind her, the instant pot rather. In this SAF, I did meet 2 people who are standing off to the side here, and I didn't film them just because I thought it would be disrespectful. But one was the woman I met with schizophrenia, and another was a man who was elderly, and they both qualified to go there for free. The woman with schizophrenia was younger, maybe like 36-ish, if I had to guess, and the man was older. And both of them were like, yeah, we come here like every day, 3 times a day for our meals. And the woman has a son at home, and she's like, I often will take food home from here for my son also. If I can't cook and my son's at school, when he comes home from school, I'll bring food from here home for me and my son so she doesn't have to cook. And she's like, my schizophrenia has been better. I've been on medication. It's been a lot better and I can manage it, but sometimes it's worse than others. So they also will go check on members of the community if they haven't seen them in a while as well, which I think is really interesting. I'm not sure what the exact medication is that they've developed for schizophrenia, but important to remember, a lot of the medication they have on the island, their own doctors and scientists developed. And when we talk about the education system next week, when we do a day on that, I'm going to explain how their education system works. And it's really inspiring how they get so many doctors. It's one of those things that just is common sense, how they make sure they have enough doctors and scientists in their education system, but we'll talk about that next week. But it is really, really cool. People were like, I'm tearing up. I love community. I love Cuba. Yeah, I feel the same way. Being here and just being like, oh, of course this makes sense. Like, I have a neighbor who's elderly. I can tell she's bored as hell all day. She walks around outside in circles to get some exercise in. She's just like, my son lives 2 towns over. He doesn't come see me. You know, she would love to go to something like this, right? We don't have anything like that for her to go to. And it does, they were describing it becomes a little bit of a social club for the people in the neighborhood. Today, Kubashi, we're doing just their government structure. So what you've missed so far if you just came in is we talked about how they have basically 3 different main components of how their country is run. There's the party, the Communist Party. Then there is the government, which is separate than the party. And then there is their mass organizations, which are separate from the government and the party. And all three interact together. And the SAFs are a great example of that. The Communist Party and some mass organizations for like disability advocacy and elderly advocacy found this need in their communities where older people and disabled people weren't able to adequately cook for themselves or feed themselves. They weren't getting enough socialization. So they approached the government and they were like, hey, we want to build these community centers basically that give people meals. They give them a place to go socialize during the daytime when nobody's home with them. And the government created this family code that provided for the creation of these. So they say they're a bridge to the government. And the government, contrary to what people tell you, not everybody in the government is even a communist. 90% though are, because the Cuban people do love communism. They love communism, these people. So 90% of them are. But the people who are like, well, they have to be communists. They're not allowed to dissent. They are definitely allowed to dissent. 10% of their government isn't even communist. They are allowed to dissent. They just don't want to because, surprise, surprise, they like communism. And yesterday, the reason why we covered their history is that this is not surprising if you know anything about their history, right? Under capitalism, they were run by the mob and used as a slave class of workers or forced to do survival sex work against their will or, involved in heroin trafficking for rich Americans. They were not having a good time under capitalism. 25% of them were dealing with unemployment. They were living in these absolutely horrible tenement-like conditions. It makes sense that this is way better for them than capitalism, right? Survival sex work. Yeah, like forced prostitution, basically. They were basically used for sexual tourism by Americans. A lot of the women in Cuba. It's pretty bad. Yeah. I know, Fork. I'm like, what is she mad at now? She's always so mad. Okay, so that's what we've talked about so far. Now, next there is also the Committee for the Defense of the Revolutions. So lots of people think that these are like, I don't even know, like groups that will like hassle you. This is just like a mass organization though. I'm going to see if I can find any info about these online to show you guys because my video about the CDRs got deleted, so I don't have my video anymore. But when you look them up online, everyone's like, and they're evil, and they want to pressure everybody into being communist, blah, 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 blah. No, that's not accurate. So, okay. I did find this article we can talk about. Let's see. So this is the Committees for the Defense of the Revolution, called the CDRs. And they have trade unions also. You might have remembered the first guy when he was talking. He's like, trade unions, whatever. They have trade unions too. Those are separate from all of this, though. The trade unions are different. And they're talking about this. Okay, block party politics. So the CDRs, they say, are a part of international socialist history. The idea was admired by Marxist-Leninist revolutionary Thomas Sankara when he was president of Burkina Faso from 1983 to 1987. And he set up CDRs across his own country. Which is really, really cool. So the CDRs actually are like community organizations, and they say it's a national network of them. It's a local group based in small residential areas that carries out activities in support of and in collaboration with the Cuban state and Cuban Revolution. So basically, this is not the Communist Party. You are just a volunteer. You're a volunteer. You can join a CDR. And basically, you can volunteer to help with government initiatives in your community and also to do other things like to teach people about the history of your revolution, to honor the revolutionary spirit. So we met with some people from the CDRs as well, which was really cool, really, really interesting. So these CDRs, they call them block party politics here. They said, we attended an evening event held by CDR 4 of Zone 170. So that gives you an idea. They break them up by neighborhood. The event was a type that would be unfamiliar in Britain. They're British, this website. A mix of outdoor block party, political meeting, concert, and carnival. And they do a lot of these there. So the event took place between two small housing blocks, both 4 stories high, on an open space about the width of a tennis court. And around 100 people went from very old to very young, and a third of those were children. So children in Cuba are very integrated into public spaces. You'll see children everywhere. And like we talked about, they have their own rights, they have their own government, they have their own representation system. A lot of people came with pet dogs. There's a lot of pet dogs in Cuba. People have a lot of pets. There's cats too. Grandmothers, children, etc. So they will do things like social work, they will beautify areas, they will show movies about the revolution, things like that. So a CDR is the presence of the Cuban Revolution within the neighborhoods, but it's not necessarily the Communist Party. So you could be in a Communist Party and in a CDR. Those are two different things. Or you could be in one and not the other. And they say the CDRs are explicitly political in the way that the Black Panther Party's breakfast program was a political act, because it was a practical act of solidarity as well as the wellspring of profound revolutionary theory, right? So they say this is not surprising to see in Cuba. It's the manifestation of the deep love shown all over Cuba for national heroes and revolutionaries. I also want to say I've never heard the word love used so much in my life as I did in Cuba. And I've said that before, but like everything is love. Everything is love. The doctors are there because they love you. They care about you. They want to help you. The SAFs are there because it's an act of love. You saw our translator, Adelso, saying, what does a heart represent on the sign? Love, of course. Everything with love in Cuba. And these are people who love their international community. They stand in solidarity with all people everywhere. So this person who went said, I spoke with ordinary Cubans, mostly non-party members. So again, not everybody's in the Communist Party, but they just might care about their history or their heritage, right? And I think that's a really interesting way to think about the CDRs. Their history and heritage is revolution. So the CDRs want to keep that spirit alive of their history and heritage, right? That's kind of, you know, what they think of when they have these CDRs. And this person also goes on to say Castro describes Xi Jinping as the greatest living revolutionary. China forgave $6 billion of Cuba debt in 2011. And also when we were there, you'll hear a lot like, oh, this was gifted to us by China. This was gifted to us by China. So China has historically and still does help Cuba quite a bit, which is really, really cool. One party member told me the Communist Party of China is a party that Cuba has always had good links with, and also with Vietnam, Laos, North Korea, Cambodia, with all socialists, with Venezuela, in the case of Brazil, with the Workers' Party. So they're very international in their disposition, right? And that's important to remember as well. Anglophone anti-communists, they say, try to make the CDR sound sinister by reducing them solely to surveillance roles they played in the days of the Bay of Pigs invasion. And during the Bay of Pigs invasion, they did surveil people who might be collaborating with the United States. But that's not what they really are. They're volunteer groups for like social work in the communities. Let's see. They played a role in the vigilant defense of the government. As our speaker that night told us, they also have a much broader role in the current context or engaged in medical, social, and environmental work instead of civil war, which I think is very, very fascinating. The one thing Cubans repeatedly asked us to do was to go back to Britain and, quote, tell the truth about Cuba. Now, this was written Friday, January 13th, 2023. When I was in Cuba, this is what they asked us to do too. They said, go back to the United States and tell the truth about Cuba. The people in Cuba are very preoccupied with the number of lies we spread about them around the world. They're not preoccupied, like that makes it sound like it's not justified. They're concerned. They don't feel like their voices get to be heard. They feel like the Cuban Americans in Miami speak over them. The imperialist powers speak over them. They wanted us more than anything to come back and tell people the truth about their society. They're proud of their government. They're proud of their organizations. They're proud of the culture they've built. They want the blockade to be lifted, obviously. But the reason why I decided to take an additional week off of work to focus on getting this content ready for you is because every single Cuban person I talked to said the most important thing we could do is come back and tell everyone the truth. So this thing they told them back in 2013, go back to Britain and tell the truth about Cuba, that's what they told us to. Go back to the United States and tell the truth about Cuba 3 years later, right? That's what they really want. That's what they really want. And it really hits home how everything you think you know about Cuba, if you grow up with access to Western media, is a lie. And a lie that hurts them. A lie that hurts them materially with the blockade, but also just hurts them like emotionally because they've built something so, so, so beautiful. Okay, I'm going to go take a second to read up on tea. And when I get back, we're going to talk about private business in Cuba. So give me just 1 minute. Okay, hi, Shannon Mac. I saw somebody before I left say that there's a Cuban TikToker who says he's being starved. In Cuba, they told me they couldn't get access to TikTok. They were like, we can get access to Instagram, we can't get access to TikTok. So, I think that person's probably lying, if I had to guess. But depending on who they are, we could check. If anybody knows their username, you can check the location of their account. But yeah, everybody in Cuba was like, I was like, oh, I'm big on TikTok. They're like, oh, we can't see TikTok. We can see Instagram. And I was like, oh, okay. Like everybody, because everyone was like, oh, I'll follow you. And I was like, oh, yeah, but I'm on TikTok. So, yeah, but if you guys know the username, we can check. Oh, I'll show you. Yeah, there's like a website. Hold on. Let me find it. I use this all the time. Whenever somebody's like, I'm Cuban in this, I just post their location. And I'm like, you're American. Yeah, that's the same one I use, Virgo. The one Virgo just said, that's the one I use. I don't know if they have access to Twitch. I didn't ask about that. Some might use a VPN, but they'd have to be out of the country to download the VPN, wouldn't they? To be able to work. Because, like, I couldn't download... No, they could do it there. Because I couldn't download a VPN while I was there. But I guess somebody in Cuba could have made a VPN thing. I'm starting to post more on Instagram. I just started doing it. Yeah. I'm trying to be less messy on Instagram, but I am posting more there. On TikTok now, I'm just like, I don't fucking care. This is slop trash content. I will fight with everybody on TikTok. But yeah, if you guys know their username, we can check their location. Mm-hmm. And I know, because one person in Iran was like, well, they probably says they're United States because of their VPN. And they were like, I'm on a VPN right now. Does it say I'm in the United States? And I checked and I was like, no, it says you're in Iran. So if they use a VPN, this will still show where their actual account is based, not where their VPN is. Which is interesting. It just says country. Yeah, it just says country. That's true. Just country. Okay, well, if you guys find the person's username, we'll check on them. We'll see what's up. But it's also worth noting, a lot of people in Cuba are also paid by the United States government. Remember on the first day, we talked about that woman who was like the journalist, who was like, how dare these people come here? And I'm like, that's crazy, because everyone in Cuba was so stoked to see us. People on the street were like, oh my God, thank you. So her, though, when I looked her up, she was being funded by USAID. Like, literally. Like, she's well known to be funded by USAID. There's another guy. I posted this on my TikTok stories, but a lot of people are quoting Radio and TV Marty. Interviews done by Radio and TV Marty. Radio and TV Marty are the USAGM. And what's actually funny is they are... so USAGM, for those of you who are new, is the United States Agency for Global Media. That is the United States government's propaganda arm that's congressionally funded. That's like our stated state media propaganda arm. Radio and TV Marty, I'm pretty sure, is the driving force, this is my guess, behind why the United States government introduced that amendment that made it so that Americans could consume our propaganda intended for foreign audiences. And it was because Radio and TV Marty was not popular with anybody on Cuba. They could instantly tell on the island that it was fake United States government propaganda, but it was really, really popular with the expat community in Florida. So because the United States government sunk a lot of money into it, I think that's why they were like, we have to change the rules so people in Cuba can watch this. Or people, in Miami can watch this now. Oh, the country it was originally opened in, not the country it's being accessed from? That's interesting, okay. That's very, very interesting. Okay. Right now, what we're going to get into is private business. Remember how I told you 20% of enterprise in Cuba is private business? They do have private business there. They have a little bit of a market economy, but it's not very good for the private business owners, which is cool. They have to do a lot of shit. They have to jump through a lot of hoops, and they have to really, really, really help service their community as well. So let's take a look at this interview I have with the private business. Let me see, actually, when did I structure this? Okay, actually, first what I'm going to show you is a different video. It's a video of a bakery. And then we're going to show you the private business alternative across the street. So in Cuba, every single person is like constitutionally entitled to free bread from the government. So every single day you're entitled to one free piece of bread no matter what. So the government has government bakeries all over town. They get rations. They get free government rations. Now, Adelso, our interpreter, was telling me, and you might see him say this, that the ration books used to be really, really, really thick. And then since the blockade, it's been harder and harder and harder for them to get a hold of everything. So the ration books have got really small. And I think you'll see him say this. I was like, hey, if the blockade wasn't there, would your guys' ration books be fat again? And he was like, yeah, they would be. So let's watch this. Oh, Fetty Fit is one claiming to be in Cuba. She hasn't said anything weird, though. Okay, let's take a look. Maybe she is. This one says that the account is based in the United States. But I don't know. Maybe she goes back and forth. You know? Some people go back and forth. Yes, Corey in the house is correct. USAID, the arm of the U.S. government that spreads democracy. They claim they're doing aid work, but the aid work is a cover to basically do regime change. So USAID in Cuba once started a fake Twitter that attempted to redirect the Cuban people into staging a revolution and overthrowing their socialist government. They would put out fake tweets. They would try to astroturf pro-capitalist movements. They even went so far as to make a fake music festival. Because remember when I said that concert we went to was put on by one of the arts organizations, and it was public, and most of the people that performed were from Cuban rap groups. Well, that's very common there. They have a huge Cuban rap scene, right? So USAID tried to make their own festival like that, but it was all rappers who claimed that they hated socialism and should overthrow the government and go capitalist, and they used their fake Twitter to try to direct everybody to it. Didn't work, though.
One bun of bread every day.
We should buy it.
The revolution was like one night thing and this I think that's going on.
The ducking.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah. Trading.
In this bakery, we offer bread for 6,542 people.
Que son los que están trabajados aquí en la comunidad.
Those that live in this community.
También atiende a los vulnerables, que son los dos SAF que están aquí en la
We
comunidad.
also,
A los SAF.
but we also produce bread for the system we just left. We take bread there as well.
¿Quieren ver el área?
I mean, when they say that every Cuban gets a bowl of bread every day, it's like a safety net. I mean, you can buy bread, extra bread in any place. But with that system, at least you know that every person will have at least a piece of bread every day. That's the idea with the ration card, okay? We'll see what they have. Please don't take any piece of bread from me. Yo soy uno de los que dice la canción, subo la luz.
El tema del bloqueo, tenemos este horno que no nos permite separación, porque no tenemos pieza y tenemos este horno.
We know you are here to say to be witness of issues and problems of the blockade. This over here,
Esto lleva roto ya 6 meses.
this part broke 6 months ago. We cannot get the parts we need to fix it.
faltan piezas para regalarla y el país no puede adquirirlo.
And the country cannot get them right now.
Entonces estamos trabajando con este horno criollo.
So we're using one oven invented by us, handmade.
Wow.
Remember they use the word alternatives. Okay, these are alternatives.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the video. Also, in the chat, if you guys haven't been paying attention, they found the guy who said that he was Cuban and starving, and always posting videos saying he was starving, and his location was based in the United States, and apparently he's asking for donations and has an Amazon wish list. So, again, when I was in Cuba, they weren't having an issue with food security at all, and documentation has shown that they have some of the highest food security in the world. Last time it was measured, obviously the blockade makes it hard for them to get certain things, but they do have an abundance of things like pork and whatnot, so I'm not sure about that. Very, very interesting. Yeah, I don't even know if Amazon delivers to Cuba. I don't think that's a thing. But, the thing, though, that I want to talk about as it pertains to issues of food security, and as it does pertain to the blockade, is something that's happening that's interesting in this bakery right now. So they said they have to make like 5,000 pieces of bread a day because they service a community of around 5,000 people, and everybody's entitled to a free piece of bread every single day from the bakery. Now, what he's saying is that this is this giant oven that they used to use all the time to make the bread, but it broke. The piece they need to repair the oven, they can't get because of the blockade. So this oven is just sitting there useless because the piece they need to repair it is inaccessible due to the blockade. So what do? They invented their own oven. So this was originally from like a pastry oven, and they altered it so that they could bake the bread in there. Because of this, though, they had to add an extra shift for additional workers because it slows down the amount of bread they can make. This is a lot less bread going in this little thing than in this giant thing. So that's the kind of stuff that affects them from the blockade. It's not like they don't have food, but their bread, for example, they could be making a lot more bread if they had the piece to repair this thing. It's not the actual food, though, that's the scarcity issue from everything I saw. If that makes sense.
I have a question about the ration card. What types of things are you available to get from a ration card, and what kinds of things would you have to pay for?
Tengo una pregunta con respecto a la libreta de abastecimiento. ¿Qué tipo de cosas usted puede recibir con la libreta de abastecimiento y cómo son los precios de esos productos?
La libreta de abastecimiento tiene varios productos que no se venden aquí, se venden en los comercios.
Okay, so this person in our chat said that guy making Cuba content says that bread is a luxury in Cuba. I can tell you bread is not a luxury in Cuba. Every single person gets a free piece of bread every single day in Cuba. It's not a luxury. There were people in here getting their daily free piece of bread. Bread is in abundance in Cuba. I ate bread every single day I was in Cuba, and I was staying with normal people in Cuba, not like fancy anything. It does sound so scammy. So the food is not scarce, it's limited because of the process being damaged by not having working equipment because of the United States. So I'm not going to say this is true everywhere. There might be areas that I did not see that are super rural, that are far away, that are having food security issues. I'm not sure about that. But what I can tell you is that nobody I talked to was experiencing food insecurity. And food seemed to be in abundance, but there were complications that made their lives harder, like the equipment, for example, to make the bread. They're like, well, now we have to work. This place used to be open 16 hours a day. Bakeries, you have to start really early, whatever. And they do, it's not like one person's working a 16-hour shift. They'd have like 2 shifts throughout the day. Now it's open 20 hours a day, and they had to add a 3rd shift onto it. So it's just resources aren't being as evenly distributed as they could be because they, for example, have a giant broken machine, so they have to use a smaller machine instead, and it makes everything slower. Does that make sense? He also says it's impossible to get milk and cheese. No, that's not true. They have dairy cows everywhere there. They have cheese everywhere. Again, he he could live in an area where that is true. That's possible. I would find that very, very, very hard to believe. He said ground meat is the only meat available in Cuba. Again, because I do not personally go everywhere on the island, who fucking knows? There could be some weird situation affecting one random place. I can tell you that is nothing I encountered, and nobody anywhere told me anything about that. So just in the interest of covering all my bases, I would be inclined to believe that person is a lying scammer. But who knows? There could be one random town in Cuba where they don't have milk and all the meat is ground and bread is a luxury. Hypothetically, anything's possible, I guess. But if he's suggesting this is normal in Cuba in any way, I can tell you it's not. That's crazy. That's crazy. I think, again, my guess would be that guy is just a weird lying scammer with the Amazon wish list and everything. But just in the interest of being as accurate as possible, anything is possible. And they shoot you for eating beef. Yeah, that's crazy to me. I don't know. He's in a keto town. He's like, I'm being oppressed by the keto Americans. The keto Americans came and took over my town. They would have milk. I think they would have milk. He's in a very rural place. There's a lot of dairy cows. It's... People are interesting. People are fucking interesting, I'll tell you that. Okay, alright, let's keep going to the video.
We go what we call bodega. Is when you buy products with the ration card. Aquí nada más es pan.
Aquí solamente es el pan.
Here with the ration card, you only get your bread.
Que
One
tiene
every day.
un precio de 75 centavos.
75 Cuban cents.
So you can come here and buy more bread, or is it just for
Puedes
rations?
comprar pan extra que puedes.
En ocasiones, eso es la independencia, la producción que tengamos.
Depending on the production we can have, we can sell extra bread to people.
Got it. Thank you.
So they also say that when they make more bread than they need, they sell the extra. They're allowed to sell the extra. So just wanted to catch that. The way personal private enterprise and government enterprise work together. So everybody's entitled to their free bread every day. But if they make more, they can sell it for additional stuff as well. Did anybody check to see if Cuba even receives Amazon deliveries? This guy's tripping me out. I don't know. I'm checking. No. But Dime Cuba, I guess they use? Dime Cuba service. Online shoppers. So they'd have to use a third-party service. Yeah, their food security is actually like consistently some of the top ranked in the world. I'm gonna see if I can find this. I did a podcast episode about it a while ago, actually. I'm gonna look. All this stuff is like weird propaganda stuff really fast. I'm going to look up before 2025. So, okay, this is the kind of stuff I was looking at before. Food security, food sovereignty, and urban agriculture in Cuba. In the last 30 years, Cuba and its capital, Havana, have become homes to one of the most vibrant urban agricultural movements in the world. UA became part of a broader movement of agricultural revolution that followed the collapse of the previous capital-intensive monocultural agro-export model. So, yeah, from everything I've seen, as Marx theorized in Capital Volume 1, Commodity Fetishism, the process of obfuscation that masks the intrinsically exploitative nature of the capitalist relation to production and transforms social relationships between people into relationships between things, turning every product of labor into a social hieroglyphic, is a defining feature of capitalism. Commodity fetishism defines all capitalist production and exchange. And food offers a striking illustration of this phenomenon. Sounds like a really banger of an article here, a paper that I'm going to share with you guys. They've had massive achievements in urban agriculture. And I did an old podcast episode about how advanced their urban agriculture is. One ring 40 ramen. Chapter 1 of Capital. So I think this is food security today. Let's see. We have a table. Let's see. The majority of households were in a situation of food security, but many declared they could not eat the food they desired. I think this really sums it up. I think this is, they're not food insecure like they don't have food. They just have very specific types of food because of the blockade. So, this is what this study has said. This is my experience talking to people as well. I think this is the reality. So anybody who says they're starving, they don't have access to food, that does not appear to be correct based on my anecdotal experience, but also based on this research that's been done there. Bread is one of the foods that's in abundance from what I have seen. So this is an academic text on SagePub. That's like a place you can find it. I'll give you guys the link to it though, so you can read it. This whole paper looks interesting. I'll probably read this later. About food security in Cuba. And I think that's the way they said that is, I think, a better way to say it. So this is it. Yeah. Thanks to their activity, urban farmers have access to fresh organic produce, high nutritious value, blah, 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 blah. This conclusion I think is really interesting. And then they get to sell the extras beyond what they need. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good assessment there on this paper. Let's keep watching though. So the reason why things like bread aren't scarce is because every Cuban is entitled to free bread every day. And that they have these government bakeries set up to do that. So we're going to go back to our government bakery and see.
6,250. This is a ration card, for example. Okay?
Can I see?
Okay, so they just down what you get, the number of people in your, the number of people who live in your house, the age, what they can get, the age and everything.
That's so cool.
And, for example, here I see rice and liquid gas. I want to tell you something about this. When this started, this ration card was this thick. Was this thick. Little by little, the government said we cannot subsidize too many products. We even got cigarettes with a ration card at very low prices. I did not smoke. What do I need to get cigarettes in my ration card? So it was thick. Meat, beans, rice, all kind of grains, powdered milk, condensed milk. It was when the system started. But today it's impossible for the government to keep that going that way. That's why you see it's so thin.
Do you think that if the blockade weren't in effect, you would have thicker ration books like you used to, and the government would be able to subsidize more?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, but also there is a debate that people are saying that maybe, for example, the manager of a hotel doesn't need to have that ration card. Okay? I don't know. A person working in a foreign company doesn't need that ration card. So the debate is going on this way. Maybe the products they are giving to those people should be given to other people who really need it. So we can give a little bit more to those people. That's the debate we're having.
So what he's talking about, the debate they're having is from each according to their ability to each according to their need. So he's like, the debate going on right now is like, actually, if you're wealthy on the island, is it fair that you get the same ration book that I do? If you work for a foreign company and your pay is way higher than people here, if you work at a hotel and you get tipped in foreign cash, if you're making more money than the average Cuban, maybe instead your ration should go to somebody who can't afford them. So they're discussing that. And there's a group of people who are like, no, everyone should always receive the same amount of rations because it sets a bad precedent. And then there's a group that's like, well, maybe it should be based more on need. Some of these people don't need government rations, so why wouldn't we take it away from them and give it more to the people who do? So this is a very, very interesting debate they have going on in the island.
But the government doesn't want to let anyone out of this system of the ration card. They are thinking about that. Okay?
And then you said the machine that you usually use is broken. How much more time does it take now because you can't use the
Como no tienen este horno funcionando, ¿qué tiempo les toma preparar la producción usando el horno criollo? ¿Les toma más tiempo?
Sí, nos toma más tiempo.
More time. ¿Cuánto tiempo más o menos sobre encima de eso?
18 a 19 horas.
Para toda la producción. Tienen que estar ustedes aquí 18 horas. We have to stay here between 18 and 19 hours to fulfill our production.
Wow.
Lleva un proceso, no menos, ahora lleva un proceso de preparación. La preparación de la producción tiene un rango de 3 a 4 horas.
Preparar la masa, todo eso.
Sí.
I mean, to prepare the dough and all that, you know, it takes between 3 and 4 hours to mold it, to put it on the trays and all that. There's small rolls or balls.
Y después,
And
en
after
otro
that,
proceso
there is another process
de estufarlo y hornearlo, entonces ya debería un proceso de 4 o 5 horas más en dependencia de la cantidad de vueltas que tenga la panadería, o sea, la cantidad de pan que tenga la panadería.
So depending on the amount of bread we need to produce, there will be different shifts doing that. Okay? Because it takes 4 hours more to put it in the oven. You take that out, you take the other dough you prepare. Until they fulfill the whole production.
You said that this oven was something that you invented, basically. This oven.
We don't know who made it.
Well, okay.
We call it criollo.
Yeah.
Criollo oven. Criollo. You can come closer.
Yeah. Is this knowledge based? Is it shared with other bakeries, or is it?
Y se comparten este tipo.
Se dice criollo porque se hizo en Cuba, pero es un horno que realmente es industrial, es producido por la empresa que se dedica.
There is an enterprise
Mayormente
that makes
es
it.
el verdadero horno de dulce.
No, actually, this is properly to make pastries, but we're using it for bread. Y la pregunta era, no saben, se hizo a nivel industrial nada.
A nivel industrial, pero para la producción de dulce.
It was made originally for pastries, and we need to use it for this.
And it's a Cuban enterprise that makes them?
Es una empresa cubana, yes, that's why they call it criollo.
Okay,
Because
okay.
it's made in Cuba by
Got
people
it.
there in a place. Any other question? ¿Y cuánto están en un turno? 4. There are 4 people in a working shift. No se tiran a un ratico por la noche.
No la
Historia.
no la tiempo.
I asked him, but you fall asleep for many times. I said, the boss is not here.
Tiempo nada.
A lot of work, guys.
Gracias.
So that is the government bakery. All right. Now, if you want bread, your only option isn't the government bakery. They still do have, again, 20% of their total enterprise. These are in enterprise a lot. Enterprise is private enterprise. So you could also go across the street from that bakery to a privately owned business. Now, the guy I'm about to show you is a Trump supporter. He is one of the 10% of the people on the island who is not a communist, not a socialist. He's capitalist. And I don't have his statements recorded here, but he was talking to the group and saying, like, yeah, I think capitalism would be great here. I could expand my business. I could do more business owner exploitation stuff, but the government's not going to let that happen. Thank goodness, right? So we're going to talk to a Cuban capitalist now that we're told doesn't exist because if you say you don't like the government, they kill you, right? But no, shockingly, you're allowed to say you don't like the government, just most of them do. And that's the biggest thing. Everybody's like, they have to say they love their government or they die. No, they don't. This guy doesn't love the government. Just 90% of them do. 90% of them do. That's why you hear that so much. I mean, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. Yes, it was very, very kind of Cuba to let this man live. So let's look at what the capitalist in Cuba has to say.
I mean, that medium-sized enterprise is the one that with their production makes profits. And part of that profit is used by us for social projects for the society here.
So I just want to clarify. What he's saying is their business is a private business, so they have profits. But a portion of that profit has to be used for social improvements and social programs in the community where the business is based. That's one of the stipulations the Cuban government puts on people who own private businesses there on the island.
There are several industries from the country that are exchange with us.
Producimos en conjunto con él diferentes productos como el almidón de maíz, que es cero de gluten.
We produce, for example, some production of food that has no gluten for people who are having no problems.
Producimos hamburguesas,
Hamburger también.
Salsas para pasta,
Some para esas personas.
y para la población.
So we produce hot tomato sauce, hamburgers, so for the population.
Pizza,
Bread, pizza.
productos de diferentes tipos, más todo lo que usted ve aquí es hecho por las manos de nosotros.
Everything you see here was made with our hands.
Desde los muebles, la
The
cena,
furniture, the
todos los
fences,
locales.
all the places here.
Entonces tenemos talleres de carpintería, plomería.
We have aquí mismo. For that. And then in other places we have some workshops for carpentry, carpintería,
Tornería, herrería,
also
artesanía,
drilling, artisans.
tapicería.
So tienen diferentes entidades que están asociadas con nosotros. We have different entities that are associated with us.
Es una sola entidad.
Sí, no, pero esos lugares, los diferentes
Son
talleres,
diferentes lugares,
los
pero
talleres.
pertenecen a-
Sí, no, cuando hay un taller, hay unos talleres. They have different workshops that are associated with this project. ¿Quiénes van a trabajar ahí?
Los trabajadores, el personal. Aquí mismo, el 90% del personal que trabaja aquí vive aquí en la.
For example, what we try to do is to have people working near their places. 90% of the staff working here is from this neighborhood. Entonces, los que están aquí en el taller es para donde trabajan los que ellos pueden. Then people who are near those workshops get benefited with jobs near the area. So they are opening places, offering jobs to people.
En este momento, este mercado mismo
This market right now
está cerrado
is closed
porque la viviente, la hija tuvo que salir corriendo porque la viviente siempre la fue.
the person working here, she was told that her daughter, she was here, the daughter was here, and water came out of her because she's pregnant, she's about to have a baby. So we had to go out running.
Ahora, en this moment,
Just right now.
salieron corriendo.
They were running to the hospital.
Porque vive exactamente aquí al doblar.
They live around the corner. Y el hospital fueron para acá, salen todos los seguros que es más cercano.
Salieron.
They were running to the hospital.
Somos parte de la población. Soy ingeniero,
I'm an engineer.
máster en ciencia en fibra.
I have a
Soy
master's
artista
degree.
también.
I'm an artist as well.
Soy el presidente del grupo P&B.
I'm the president of that group P&B.
Y lo que hacemos es
producir.
What we do is production.
Y llegar al pueblo, a los niños y eso.
And try to reach to children and the people with some projects.
Es la principal tarea que tenemos.
The main task is to reach out to people and children with the surplus production we have.
Aquí mismo, por ejemplo, aquí, allá atrás, podemos pasar ahora a ver.
Right now,
Tenemos una panadería.
we have also a bakery right there.
Privada.
It's a private bakery. Remember, this is government, this is private.
Donde los precios son superiores a la...
Prices here are higher than they are, of course,
Pero la calidad también es superior.
but our quality, of course, is also higher.
Aunque el precio no es tan alto, ¿verdad?
He's asking me about prices as a Cuban. That's not a high, no.
Un paquete de pizza, 60 centavos dólar.
I mean,
De 5 bases. De 5
okay, you want to make pizza, you can get the base, fries, ¿cuántos centavos? 75 centavos, 60 cents. You make the conversion to dollars. You do have an idea. Sí, pero I don't.
No, for a pizza crust.
Pizza, I mean, when you have
I just want to say, somebody was like, he reminds me of every contractor in the South. He totally does. And everyone's like, he looks like a capitalist. He's wearing all beige. He has no drip. It's so true. But something I think is interesting is that they make the capitalists there do community service. So he's like, wow, we run all these workshops, you know, for kids and for the community to like learn how to make things. And they do. They have these like workshops in the back where they like teach people how to build things and construct things because he's an engineer too. And just something about, even though this man is not a socialist or a communist, his outlook on the world, even as like a Trump guy, because this guy was like, yeah, I think Donald Trump would be good. He'd be good for business here. Yeah, bring more business to the island. He is a capitalist. He is the president of a private enterprise. He is a capitalist. But even just the environment he's in tempers how extreme his beliefs are allowed to get. So this average capitalist man is probably more progressive in the United States than your average liberal is here, if I had to guess. Which is wild. So, very, very interesting to think of. The only difference is the liberal hates Donald Trump aesthetically, but we know that a lot of their policies are the same as Donald Trump's. They just do it in a more tempered way, right? But this guy's beliefs are probably on par with, maybe even slightly to the left of an average liberal in the U.S. Just because he's a capitalist, yeah, but a capitalist in Cuba. And Cuba tempers how far he's allowed to go. Just because of what's socially acceptable, because of what they're taught. And this is something I think of a lot if you don't live in the United States. When people outside of the United States look at our Democratic Party and they're like, well, your Democratic Party is more conservative than our far-right party, because even our far-right party would never dream of taking away public health care from people. That's just like a part of our society now. Overton window, exactly, Chinese mustard. So the Overton window in Cuba being so far left means even that if you were a capitalist in Cuba, you know, you're not gonna... There's certain things that you're gonna take as granted and necessary in society. Later on, I talked to a guy who, I think I told the story on TikTok, who was interested in capitalism as well. He was super into the idea of capitalism, and he was like, maybe something has to change because the blockade's so horrible, maybe it wouldn't be that bad. And his main complaint, was that he couldn't get all the medication he needed when he went to the doctor because of the blockade. And I told him, under capitalism, you won't be able to afford to go to the doctor. But that, like, Overton window shift, they can't even, fathom it because of the society they're built in. So I just think that's interesting. But yeah, this guy is definitely a super capitalist guy. It's really, really, really funny. Also, somebody was saying the translator's doing a great job, Adelso. Adelso is a second-generation translator. His dad was a translator. He went to school to be a translator. He went to university to be a translator. His dad was a translator, and he became a translator because he was jealous of his dad. Because as a translator in Cuba, you get to, meet a lot of interesting people, So he's like, I want to do that. So he went to school to be a translator, too. Very, very cool. Okay, we're going to keep going.
You make your pizza at home. You sit down on the window.
Pero son 5 por 60. 5 pizza crust for 60.
Okay, you need to buy the cheese. Sí. here, ¿cuál es el salario más o menos que ganan las personas que trabajan aquí?
Básico 20,000 pesos.
20,000 pesos per month. That's the basic.
Oh, ese es el básico.
I have a question.
Mañana hablamos.
And then he said, tomorrow we are talking. See,
What percent of Cuba's economy is private businesses versus government enterprise?
¿qué por ciento, qué por ciento tú consideras en la economía cubana que sea privada y cuál es estatal en estos días hoy día? ¿Tendrás alguna cifra?
Debe estar.
Somebody asked the guy who I talked to who was like mad he couldn't get prescriptions fulfilled because of the blockade. Yeah, the types of prescriptions he was talking about was going to the doctor because he had a fever. And that's when I was like, you would never go to the doctor because you have a fever under capitalism. It's too expensive. But this is not that same guy. That guy was a college student. He was much younger than this guy. So we did meet a couple people who weren't super into communism and socialism. But again, it's very, very few, a very, very low percent of the population. So when everyone's like, well, you only got to meet these people. They took you on tours of these people. Like, no, we talked to people, and not everybody anywhere is monolith, so we definitely also, that meant talking to people who were not super into socialism, but, like, most people are. Just like the head of the Young Communist League said, most people are very, very, very into socialism here, and they are correct. The majority of people you meet on the street are. Not everybody, but the majority of people are, yeah.
When you have 20% could be private.
Oh.
I mean, they want to keep state economy as the privacy of the economy.
Porque hay mucho enlace entre el sector privado y estatal.
What they are doing is they are making change between the private people and the government people.
Por ejemplo, esta misma área no es mía.
For example, this is not my area.
Me la dio el gobierno para yo hacer algo así.
Te dieron el lugar,
Yo no me pagan, yo lo pago.
I mean, I'm paying for this space to the government. So I can have this project on a lease agreement or something. Okay?
Anything else?
¿Cuándo entro? When I mean? Money. Let's walk this way, they say.
So that's what a capitalist looks like in Cuba. That's him. That was our guy. I didn't get the recording of him saying that he supported Donald Trump, but that was later. Also by Lord Axiom. So, very, very interesting. Now, the other thing I want to talk to you guys about is the electoral process in Cuba and women in government. Just worth pointing out, this is going to be fast, really, really quick. Cuba has the second highest amount of women in their assembly, in their parliament, out of anywhere on the planet. They have... Sorry, I was getting a call. They have a lot of women in government there. Like, a lot of women in government there, which is pretty cool. I know, yeah. Signal, you guys know. Hold on just a sec. Let me message this person back. One second. I gotta do something. One sec. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, everybody, one sec. Just a second. I was getting a call and then I couldn't answer because streaming, yeah, so. Okay, done. Sorry, everybody. Because I usually am done at 11:30. I think people reach out to me. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you guys, so we talked about that, how there's like, they have a good electoral process, right? They have direct elections for their assembly. They have very, very high participation in their elections. And a lot of the people who are in their assembly are women. They have disproportionately higher than that. So the next thing I want to show you is a woman who works not in the assembly, but in other local government, talking about kind of their government and their process, which I think is really, really interesting. And I might, while this is playing, I might just reach out to somebody else on my phone really fast about something. Sorry, hold on.
Voy a tratar de responder las tres primeras preguntas.
I will try to answer the three first questions.
En caso de mi participación en el gobierno y lo que representa,
My
que no es
participation in the
dictadura,
people's power and
el
about the
optimismo
notion of the
revolucionario
dictatorship in
y la
Cuba
frustración.
and the frustration also from young people sometimes.
Yo soy más joven que ellos, entonces puedo quizás acercarme más a esa verdad.
I am younger than the two of them, so maybe I could be closer to that truth.
Fíjense que esta respuesta que voy a dar tiene un vínculo estrecho con el elemento de los jóvenes, cómo reaccionan los jóvenes y demás. Yo
This
diría,
answer I'm going to give you has a close link with young people, reaction from young people, and other things.
entonces, en primer lugar yo diría, cuando uno nace, crece y se desarrolla, la educación familiar es la que va influyendo y preparándolo a usted para la vida.
I would say, first of all, once you are born, you are growing up, and you are just developing yourself, the influence from your family is the one that will be preparing you for life. First of all.
Entonces, voy a utilizar mi ejemplo para facilitar la
So I
respuesta.
will use my own example to make this answer easy.
Pero con seguridad esto se dio en muchos jóvenes cubanos,
But I can tell you for certain that this, what happened to me, happened to many
porque
young
al
people
triunfo de la
in Cuba.
revolución
Because at the triumph of the revolution,
éramos nada más que 6 millones de habitantes,
there were 6 million inhabitants in Cuba.
un % muy grande de analfabetos y subanalfabetos.
Most of the population were illiterate.
Los remito a que lean la historia Max Olverá del comandante Fidel
I
Castro, su alegato
recommend that you read History Will
en el
Absolve Me.
53, que identifica toda la problemática de la
The
revolución.
position where he spoke about all the ailments
Y el
of Cuban
gobierno-
society before the revolution.
Y el gobierno, a partir de ese momento, trabajó en función de todos los estratos sociales, blancos y negros, jóvenes y adultos, en función de lograr justicia social y una igualdad.
And since the very
colectiva.
beginning, the government started working with every social strata, black people, white people, young people, every social strata,
Por lo
trying to
tanto-
achieve all the fulfillment of their rights and social development.
Por lo tanto, en dependencia de la formación individual dentro de la familia,
So depending on your individual formation within your family,
quien tuvo conciencia de lo que era el proceso revolucionario, resolvió ese problema de frustración.
those who were aware of the meaning of that revolutionary process could solve that problem of frustration.
Se ha mantenido en el optimismo revolucionario como el que tengo yo todavía.
I still keep my revolutionary optimism, and those who could achieve it, they can have it.
Y el que no lo asimiló así,
Those who couldn't assimilate it that way,
¿qué sucedió? Que en un principio,
What happened?
inconscientemente, de Cuba emigró 3.000 médicos cubanos.
for example, at the beginning of the revolution, 3,000 Cuban doctors emigrated.
Y los que se quedaron trabajaron en función de mantener el optimismo en la juventud.
Those doctors who remained, they tried to keep up the optimism.
Habían
of the
dos
young people.
escuelas de medicina
We have 2 schools of medicine,
y ahora hay una escuela de medicina en cada
and
municipio.
now we have a school of medicine almost in every
Y
municipality.
tenemos
branch.
75.000 médicos formados.
And we have more than
Pero
70,000,
tenemos escuelas universitarias para todas las carreras hasta nivel del municipio.
and we have university schools and branches in municipalities.
Entonces, no voy a poner más ejemplos, lo que sí quiero un poco que matizarle, que el
I just
optimismo predominó por encima
I
de la
just want to tell
frustración.
you that optimism is predominant over negative narrative.
Ahora, hoy mismo tenemos jóvenes que sí se sienten frustrados.
But today we have young people who are frustrated,
Y precisamente es el resultado de la intención de mensajes mediáticos que tenemos en Cuba, que
there
es
is an
horrible.
intention. Through mass social media, young people have been bombarded constantly.
Constantemente hay una confusión. Yo misma, que estoy bien definida y bien programada, hay veces le transmito a mi comunidad algo y después digo, no, falsa noticia.
You
Eso no es
get
así.
confused very easily. Even myself, I'm well trained politically, I'm well formed, but sometimes when talking with my community, sometimes I said something that I thought it was true, but no, forget it was fake news, because you get everything there.
Pero eso no nos frustra, nos hace más optimistas
But
y
we
saber que
shouldn't be
tenemos que ponernos más
frustrated.
preparados para combatir.
We need to be more optimistic, and we need to be every time ready, every time more to fight.
Por eso les decía cuando me estaba presentando que estaban en la actividad más combativa de estos días.
Usted o ellos?
Yo.
That's why I was telling you when I was introducing myself that today I feel like I am in the most fighting situation and condition during these days.
No es mi
Somebody just asked, Virgo just asked if it was a kafia. Yes. All of Cuba is very, very invested in Palestinian liberation as well. They're very, very invested in Palestinian liberation. So yeah, a lot of people in Cuba are wearing kafias.
con las armas, es militar con las ideas.
It's not with the weapons, it's with ideas my fight.
En un marco muy pequeño, que es la comunidad,
in my community, which is a small frame of work,
donde soy la delegada.
I'm the delegate.
Soy la que desarrollo conjuntamente con la participación popular
I am
las
the one
ideas,
developing together with popular participation, the ideas,
actividades,
the activities we
orientaciones,
orientations we need to convey.
Que de forma muy espontánea realizamos.
In a very spontaneous way, we carried out that in the communities.
Después de 67 años de revolución.
Still after 67 years of revolution.
Concretamente.
Concrete.
Estoy subordinada a un municipio, al municipio del Poder Popular.
I'm subordinated to the municipal level of the
El
People's
municipio
Power.
está subordinado a la provincia.
And this People's Power municipality is subordinated
Y la
to the
provincia a la
province.
nación.
And then to the nation.
Es una estructura bien definida.
It's a very well-defined structure.
La nación desarrolla o establece las políticas sociales.
At national level, they develop or establish social policies.
Ahora, el cómo se cumplen en mi comunidad,
how are they fulfilled in my community,
lo decide un grupo muy pequeño.
It's decided by a small group
que se llama Grupo de Trabajo Comunitario Integrado.
That is called Community Integral Group.
Y aplicamos todo lo que está establecido en las regulaciones del país.
And we apply everything that is established within the regulations of the country.
Ejemplo concreto.
A concrete example.
Tenemos una ley que es la ley 148.
We have a law that is 148 law.
Ley de seguridad y soberanía alimentaria y nutricional.
A law for food sovereignty.
En la cual ustedes están contribuyendo mucho con las donaciones que nos han traído.
Contributing a lot with the donations people are bringing.
Y que agradecemos mucho.
And we thank you for that a lot.
Cuando eso llega a mi comunidad, nosotros valoramos y decidimos cómo distribuirla en función de familias que están en situación de vulnerabilidad.
When food gets to our community, that group evaluates, makes an assessment, how can we distribute resources that are coming, which is the family that is more vulnerable, the people, and we decide together.
Si quieren, llámenle dictadura.
If they want to call it dictatorship, okay.
Pero es una dictadura comunitaria.
But it's a community dictatorship.
Para resolver los problemas de la comunidad. Pero más que eso, no me da tiempo de decírselo todo. La comunidad como comunidad generó un proyecto medioambiental.
But more than that, I won't have time to
a
tell you
partir de los problemas que
we
tiene el
have
país.
an environmental project in our community that emerged from the community.
Y ustedes habrán visto por muchos lugares los vertederos de basura que hay.
Starting from the problem we have in the country.
Es un problema de salud.
Garbage being piled up in some corners.
Un problema de salud, un problema higiénico.
Problem for health issues.
Pero no lo tenemos porque queremos tenerlo.
We don't have that because we want to have it.
Acuérdense que Cuba llegó a ser una potencia médica.
Remember, Cuba became
Ahora ya
a big
no
medical
lo somos
power.
Por las mismas incidencias del bloqueo.
We are not like that due to the incidence of the blockade itself.
Pero seguimos siendo potencia como comunidad. ¿Por qué?
But we are still a power as community.
Bueno, nuestra comunidad que se llama Atabey, está cerquita de acá.
Our community is called Atabey.
1,100 habitantes nada más.
We have 1,000 inhabitants in that community.
Nosotros recogemos toda la poda, toda la vegetación. Es una comunidad que hay muchos árboles.
It's a community with a lot of trees around.
Y lo convertimos en compost.
We collect
¿Saben
all
lo que
the
es compost?
leaves falling down and we turn that into compost.
Ese compost se lo damos a las familias.
And we give that compost to the families.
Cada familia, todas las casas allí tienen patio.
All the houses
Tienen
they
sembrado
have
su patio.
a yard or a patio, and they have something planted in the yards.
Y en un principio que es la economía circular,
And what we call circular economy,
producimos alimentos
we produce
ecológicos
food, ecological food,
y van a la misma población. O sea,
and that production
la
goes to the
familia
population.
asume lo que quiere y los que no lo venden en la placita de la comunidad.
So they have some food for self-consumption, and what they have surplus, they can sell it in the farmers market we have in the community.
Pero simultáneamente recogemos la materia prima que tiene un valor
But we also collect raw material at the same time.
clasificada
We classify that raw
que lo hace
material.
cada familia.
Every family will classify glass, carton board, plastic,
La vendemos a un nivel superior
and we sell it to an entity that collects raw
y esos
material.
fondos los invertimos en la comunidad.
And then those funds are invested in the community.
Y tenemos una nave
And then we have like a nave, a
que lo que
facility.
se siembra en esa nave
It's like a protected
va
farming
gratuitamente,
facility.
a las familias en situación de
What we
vulnerabilidad.
plant in that protected crop nave will go to the families that are having the worst
Por eso es
situation.
tan doloroso para nosotros cuando el enemigo se pone a decir que las donaciones llegan y no llegan a las familias.
That's why it's painful for us when they say donations do not reach all the families in Cuba.
Si nosotros somos capaces de hacer lo posible para que lleguen como lo que nos traen, no lo vamos a distribuir. de
If
la
we are
misma forma.
capable to do these things for our community, then how we are not going to be able to distribute what we get from donations?
Bueno, vamos a dejarlo aquí para dar la
Por eso
oportunidad a las
también-
demás respuestas.
To have more time.
Después si quieren me abordan y puedo hacerlo muy...
So just what she said, she was like, a couple things in here, she's a banger. When she's like, if you want to call our government a dictatorship, whatever, fine, but it's a dictatorship of the community. That's a dictatorship of the proletariat. She's describing Marxism. The average person in Cuba is extremely politically literate. They understand Marxism, they understand what capitalism is, they understand what socialism is, they understand what communism is. She's taking it straight from the text. She's like, fine, but we have a dictatorship of the proletariat. You can call it whatever you want, I don't care. Right? And now she's talking about all the things they're able to do. She's like, we're able to run recycling programs. We're able to bring people compost so they can grow their own food. We have a circular economy where you grow your own food to feed yourself, subsistence-wise, sure. But then you also can sell your extra food at a farmer's market, right? She's like, if we can do all this, if we can run a government, what makes you think we can't distribute food aid or distribute sanitary aid? What makes you think we can't distribute foreign aid we get? Come on. And she's right. It's like you infantilize these people or demonize them so much that you think that they're either incapable of distributing aid or unwilling to. And it really is interesting that the Americans are like, no, it's just the rich on top who get it. And then we looked at that, they were like, well, it's just the people in the government. We looked at that one diagram. The reason why I was like, this one isn't as easy to understand, but I like that it has the numbers. There's 800,000 people in their government alone. So like the idea that just the government officials get things, you're like, so it's just 800,000 people that get things? First of all, it's not true. But second of all, even if it was, that's a huge number of people, and that should tell you alone this is not a dictatorship. This isn't one guy calling all the shots. And it's the same thing when you talk about the DPRK. You say, well, 200,000 people from the DPRK travel to China every year alone. And they're like, that's just the elite. And you're like, okay, so the DPRK has 200,000 people who are in the elite? That's not really the picture you guys have been painting up to this point, right? Which I think is very, very interesting. Chad, have you ever heard the term dictatorship of the proletariat? Virgo saying America is the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. Yes, a society ruled by workers versus society ruled by rich guys. Exactly. Yeah, in the United States, the food gets distributed to dumpsters. Marxist Gamer Zero. Yep, So, I really liked her. She was cool as hell. And she, again, from yesterday, if you were here, you remember, she was here with this guy who was the first diplomat from Cuba to Angola, and then the other guy that was to the left of him is Victor Drake, who's like a world famous revolutionary fighter, and she is Victor Drake's wife. So she's a doctor, and she's also worked in politics and been part of the revolution in Cuba, historically and currently to this day. So The only thing we have left to watch at this point is 20 minutes of the president speaking to us. Now, this video, I have to tell you, is rough. It's a rough video. I was in a large room full of a lot of people. There's a lot of echo. The sound quality is not great. I used an auto caption generator feature on CapCut. It didn't work awesome. So it is a rough video, but I am really, really sorry. But it's pretty wild. You know, we were sitting in a room with the president of Cuba, and it's pretty shocking. You're like, why would the president of Cuba come to receive us? Like, we're just some random people. But when you hear everything you've heard about their government, and you hear about how their government really is a government for them, right? You're like, well, it makes sense that the president of Cuba would come talk to us. Of course. Because that's the nature of their government. Their government isn't that your president is some fancy special man sitting up on high in a tower that you never get access to or can touch or talk to. The president is representative of the people. You know, his mom was a teacher. His dad was a lathe operator, not laugh. He was a teacher. Like, these are normal people. You don't get paid to do government work there. You get paid from your regular job. Like, they're just workers, like you. He's just a guy. And so if you hear 600 people are coming to your town internationally to come bring you solar-powered lights, of course you're going to be like, oh, damn, I should go talk to them. That's really cool. So, yeah, this is the man that they are trying to tell you is the big, bad, scary dictator of Cuba. And one of the things you'll get as a Marxist is you'll be like, holy shit, this is the leader of a country, and he's saying Marxist shit. He's got the same politics as me. And this really helped also hammer home the idea for you guys to really remember that your ideology is not fringe, that billions of people on this planet practice your ideology politically, including the leaders of other countries. And they view the world the same way you do, right? And that is why I think it's so important for us to always support Cuba, but also to like always support actually existing socialism everywhere we see it, right? So, yeah, you do get some cool Spanish practice being in here for sure. So I'm gonna play the speech. It is long. It's like 20 minutes long, but we're gonna fucking get through it together. Let's just do it. And I did put captions on best I could. Just know the captions are not perfect. I'm really sorry. And remember how I said they talk about Palestine a lot. He talked about Palestine because he was like, this is not just our struggle. This is the struggle of everybody on the planet against imperialism.
Que no puede seguir siendo este mundo en el que estamos viviendo ahora, donde la guerra, la agresión y la hegemonía están aplastando el multilateralismo. En un mundo donde se busca la solución por la vía de la violencia. En un mundo al que opina diferente se trata de eliminar. En un mundo donde se contempla la agresión, se difunde en la televisión, en un mundo donde vemos todos los días las horribles escenas de genocidio en Palestina, con la masacre contra otros pueblos del mundo. Y por eso es muy bueno que estén presentes los jóvenes, porque los jóvenes son parte ya del presente, pero también son parte del futuro del mundo. Y desde aquí, desde este momento, todos nosotros y otros muchos en el mundo queremos cambiar el mundo. Pero los jóvenes tienen que cultivar esa lucha de cambio. Para que ese mundo mejor que es posible, así lo definió el comandante jefe, realmente lo podamos lograr entre todos. Quiero, en primer lugar, expresar todo nuestro agradecimiento y reconocimiento a la iniciativa del convoy América, articulada por el Internacional Progresista, David y su equipo de trabajo, en la que se han involucrado más de 300 organizaciones de diversa naturaleza en el mundo y que hicieron de una manera tan rápida que nos sorprendió desde que nos empezaron a anunciar la idea hasta allá completar la presencia de estos días en nuestro país.
I turned down my microphone. Are we at a better volume now, Match? Me and the video? Or is it okay now? Is it better? No? I'm too quiet? What about now? Better? Beep. Better? Okay, here. Okay. Okay. Just also, my view gets obstructed by this guy from Spain handing out treats to everybody, like snacks. So again, I know this video is real rough. I know the captions are auto captions that are not great. So I'm really, really sorry. But yeah, it's funny. And then this dude from Spain will just pop around offering everybody cookies and stuff, like the whole time.
Nuestro más caluroso saludo para todo el Cristo, Nuevos Reformas, Nuevos Exchange, Pastores por la Paz, la Agencia para el Intercambio Cultural y Económico con Cuba, Italia, en Cuba, Europa, a los europarlamentarios, diputados, senadores y representantes de fuerzas políticas como el Frente Amplio de Uruguay, el Partido Comunista Francés, el Partido Comunista de Brasil, el Partido por el Socialismo y la Liberación de Estados Unidos, el Movimiento Independentista Nacional Ostosiano de Puerto Rico y los grupos populistas de Italia y Austria. Siempre algunos se enredan tratando de reconocer y agradecer a todos los que están, se nos queda gente, pero no estoy omitiendo a nadie porque le digo al fin de cuentas a todos ustedes representantes y participantes de más de 31 países en este convoy de nuestra vida. Un abrazo a todas y a todos. Aquí se ve en la presencia de ustedes, aquí se ve y se siente que la solidaridad internacional está presente. Gracias por esa inyección de amor a Cuba, este entusiasmo que ustedes nos dan, esta alegría, este abrazo colectivo nos energiza y nos ratifica una idea fundamental con la que estamos derrotando los propósitos imperiales. Como han dicho ustedes, Cuba no está sola. Como todos conocemos, hay toda una intención del imperialismo de ayudar a Cuba. Vuelven a repetir las prácticas ya fracasadas de los años 60, de los primeros años de la Revolución, cuando después de la victoria de la Revolución Cubana en Quilón, trataron de ayudar a Cuba. Y en aquel momento, el heroico pueblo mexicano, el gobierno mexicano, se mantuvo como una actitud solidaria, siempre en relación con Cuba. Hoy es historia lo que está repitiendo. Están ustedes, pero nosotros también tenemos que reconocer para hacer juntos todo el apoyo que en este tiempo hemos recibido de México. A diferencia de ese apoyo, la diferencia de lo que están haciendo ustedes con nosotros, hace unos días se reunió un selecto grupo de la derecha latinoamericana, una derecha que sobre todo se distingue por el lacanismo y por estar constantemente abriendo la boca a los representantes del imperio en la capital del imperio. Y hubo quien llevó como regalo la expulsión de los diplomáticos cubanos de su territorio. Al regreso de esa cita, de esa misma cumbre, otro gobierno de la región hizo lo mismo al regreso y redujo las relaciones diplomáticas con Cuba a relaciones consulares. Y nosotros estamos esperando que en los próximos días se repitan hechos como este. Porque la presión de Washington es brutal sobre los gobiernos. La presión de Washington en estos tiempos es brutal, incluso para sofocar el ejemplo que dan proyectos tan humanistas como es la colaboración médica cubana en varios lugares del mundo.
Y por esa presión, ya varios gobiernos han estado renunciando a la presencia de la Brigada Médica Cubana, o han estado tratando de desarticular los convenios de colaboración que mantenemos con Cuba en materia médica, y lo peor, están privando de servicios básicos a los sectores más humildes de ese pueblo. Y la culpa de eso lo tiene el gobierno de los Estados Unidos, que ha presionado a ese gobierno, y también la tiene aquellos gobiernos que se dejan presionar y que no defienden con dignidad a su pueblo. Ayudar a Cuba es justificar el tribunal cerco que pretende oficiar a todo el mundo. Y ahora cuando los escuchaba con ustedes, con la pasión con ustedes tienen esa defensa por Cuba.
So just want to say, before he spoke, the leaders from a lot of different elements of the convoy spoke as well. Claudia de la Cruz spoke from the United States, the presidential candidate for Socialist. A lot of different people spoke. So when he's like, I was listening to you, that's what he's referring to a lot of the time.
En el mundo recordaba una frase de Martín, que creo que tiene mucha audiencia en este país, que decía así algo: quien se levante con Cuba, se levanta para todos los tiempos. Aquí nos estamos levantando para todos los tiempos. Ustedes dicen que los pueblos están con Cuba y los gobiernos que escuchan a sus pueblos están en Cuba. Por lo tanto, los gobiernos que no escuchan a sus pueblos se están subordinando vergonzosamente a la orden superior de ayudar a Cuba. Y traigo a ustedes mayor, porque lo tienen que acompañar en el momento más difícil, y decidiendo a un poder a que otros tienen que deben vivir y confiar a nuestro pueblo y a nuestro pueblo.
So somebody asked if he was still a teacher, and he is not still a teacher. So he actually started working in government jobs after he stopped being a teacher. So he got a government job as the Minister of Higher Education, and then he was promoted to the Vice President of Council of Ministers. So getting into an elected official position is different than having like a government job. So he was doing like government jobs after he stopped teaching, basically. If that makes sense. And he was in the Young Communist League. He was in the same Young Communist group that girl we saw was. And
un sentido determinado, compartir con nuestro pueblo, que van a poder algunos lamentables favores como parte de esa presencia. Ustedes que están viviendo nuestra realidad, yo soy bueno con ustedes, así van a comprender mejor lo que está pasando en el pueblo cubano, y así nos podrán defender con argumentos más objetivos, más realistas, más sentidos y más con más convicción. Pero lo que más nosotros agradecemos es que ustedes han traído un enorme corazón, han traído un solo corazón, que es el corazón de la solidaridad de los pueblos del mundo con Cuba. Cuando uno está en un buscador de internet, puede quedar aplastado por toda una lancha de infamia ante llegar a una primera verdad. No hay forma de escapar al uso de la tecnología con fines políticos y con manipulaciones políticas.
I didn't get moved. My phone got full, so the video stopped recording, so then I had to start recording again, so I just angled it a little bit to the left because I was like, maybe this is a better view, I don't know. Yeah, and I zoomed out, yeah.
Haciendo un genocidio como el de Gaza se naturalice también en esta práctica.
The captions, I'm so sorry. I literally did an auto caption feature. It's wild. I do not know. But yeah, sorry again.
ustedes, entre otras cosas, están necesitando un grupo de periodistas que la campaña de investigación mediática contra Cuba todos los días repiten y que son totalmente falsos. Uno de ellos, la revolución cubana llegó al poder de manera ilegal. Es impresionante cómo una potencia imperialista, para sobrellevar a una pequeña isla, tenga que decir tantas mentiras y tenga tanto desconocimiento del pueblo. ¿Qué se puede pensar de un gobierno que está...
So just for anybody struggling with the captions, what he said so far is that he's very, very touched and impressed that everybody came from all around the world to offer them, like, not just the things are nice. He was like, I do appreciate the things, we do appreciate the things, but more than that, like, we're not alone, you know? They are Peggy Hill captions, yes. You know, that we're not alone, that we're here, that you guys are with us in solidarity, like, that's the most important thing that matters to me. And then in this part, he's like, the United States government has to lie. The imperialist powers, they have to lie. They have to make up lies about us, and they have to keep their people ignorant, basically. And that's kind of what he's saying here. And he's like, why does the United States government care so much about this one little country and what we're doing?
Responsable para juzgar los hechos desconocidos del pueblo. ¿Es que acaso no recuerdan que en Cuba desde 1959 y ante el triunfo de la revolución, los mercados, una gente figura conocida como Fulgencio Batista, que por encima de la Constitución dio un golpe de Estado? Y después un gobierno asesino dictatorial que fue amparado por el gobierno de los Estados Unidos durante mucho tiempo.
And now he's obviously talking about the Batista government. He's like, before we had our revolution, our government was led by a US-backed dictator who staged a coup, stole control of the country, and worked in US interests.
Porque estoy defendiendo sus intereses de dominación y de inversión en estudios prácticamente se apoderaron de la mayor parte de nuestros recursos naturales. Y fue Fidel, Raúl, la generación del centenario, el movimiento 26 de julio y las otras fuerzas que conformaban y que eran expresión.
I speak okay Spanish. When I'm in a place, it gets better, but it's not perfect. It's harder for me to understand Spanish, but when somebody's giving like a formal speech like this, it's easier for me to understand it because they tend to speak slower and more deliberate. So, I'm California bilingual, yeah. Yeah, I speak Russian actually. Loshatis masla.
De lo más genuino del pensamiento cubano, el ejército rebelde, la lucha en la sierra, el Che, quienes derrotaron a ese gobierno asesino, a esa dictadura. Por lo tanto, restablecieron la legitimidad constitucional de Cuba.
Someone also asked what's the ratio of younger to older people in the party. I'm not sure about the party, but I can tell you in government, there's a lot of people under the age of 35. I can't remember the number, but I remember when they told us the number, we were all like, whoa, because it's a very, very significant number of people who are under the age of 35 who are in their actual government. Like, again, I can't remember the number, but I remember it was enough for us to all audibly like, what? Like, it was very, very impressive.
Ha sido defendida en más de 60 años por el pueblo cubano. Y esta revolución defendida por el pueblo cubano ha sobrevivido a más de 66 años de bloqueo imperialista. Y esa revolución con ese pueblo heroico, con ese pueblo que tiene resistencia creativa, en medio de esta situación tan compleja, una de las más complejas y más peligrosas que hemos vivido en los años de la revolución, va a continuar venciendo y con el apoyo de ustedes, con la solidaridad de ustedes y con el valor y la decisión de los cubanos, venceremos. Otra de las mentiras, Cuba es un régimen antidemocrático. las élites de los partidos, de dos partidos que piensan igual y que se parecen muchísimo.
Also, he's like talking shit on the two-party system in the United States, also by Virgo. Yeah, he's like, yeah, they've got those two parties that think the same and act the same. Like, what difference does it make for us? Kind of a vibe. And he's like, that's the democracy that exists for us today. That's the democracy they want you to have. They want you to be able to choose between two members of their government, right? The parties that act the same and talk the same. What kind of a democracy is that? And he says that it's not even the person who wins the most votes that even becomes president sometimes. He's talking about how we don't have a democracy, and it's crazy. He's like, yeah, you can win the most votes and not even become president in the United States, because he's talking about the Electoral College.
Toda una armadura y una matriz con la que mueren si un Estado tiene más progreso que se lucha. Pero además, en el mundo, en Cuba, para ser elegido en un cargo, tienen que ser elegidos en la base por el pueblo en un municipio. Porque la población, reconociendo el mérito, no la riqueza, aquí nadie va a hacer campaña. El Partido Comunista de Cuba no es un partido electoral. Nadie hace campaña. El pueblo distingue a sus dirigentes por los méritos y no por el dinero que tienen o por la riqueza que tengan. Bueno, aquí no hay nadie rico. Y después que se pasa por ese proceso de selección de la base por el pueblo y que se van también por procesos de consulta que se hacen a las representaciones de los diferentes sectores del pueblo, en una asamblea nacional sí se lleva presión. Pero ese método de elección indirecta parlamentaria lo tienen otros países del mundo. Países muy amigos de Estados Unidos, países de la antigua Europa. ¿Por qué la cogemos poca? ¿Por qué la escuela democrática la ven, no? Cuando la nuestra tiene la base popular que no la tiene ninguno de ellos. Esas son las mentiras que difunden, esas son las maneras en que fragmentan los pensamientos en el mundo.
Yeah, someone else said the caption's wrong. They said Venezuela, but he said in Cuba, nobody's wealthy. And that's what he said. He's like, in the United States, the wealthy are the ones that call the shots, right? They're the ones running for government. They're the ones taking up your government. He's like, nobody's wealthy in Cuba. None of us are rich. So yeah, just in case it said Venezuela, I guess. But yeah, that is what he said.
Tan baja con la que tratan de lograr las mentes para eliminarlas. Cuba viola los derechos humanos, la mayor violación de derechos humanos la que se ejerce sobre el pueblo cubano por parte del gobierno de Estados Unidos por haber mantenido este bloqueo criminal y genocida inhumano durante tantos años. Cuba es Estados Unidos. ¿Cuántos estados del mundo hubieran soportado 67 años de bloqueo?
So this is another thing he says that I think is really important. How many states in the world would have survived 67 years of a blockade like this? And when people look at Cuba and they're like, see how bad they're doing, like, first of all, they're not doing that bad. They're doing better, I would say, than many poor places, right, in the world. But then you're like, how many countries would have survived that? Being completely cut off from the world and not allowed to trade with anybody. It's Cuba and it's DPRK. Those are the two places that survived. And the United States hates them for it. Hates them for it, right? And that's, I mean, really, the fact that they're still here is a testimony, or a testament, rather, to the power of socialism. They would not have survived that with capitalism. There's no way. I'm ignoring the chat. I'm ignoring you guys in the chat right now. Yeah, we would fold. We would fold. Imagine all of a sudden you can't get shit you need from anywhere around the world. We don't even have domestic manufacturing in the US anymore. It would take a year to get domestic manufacturing even up and running, right?
¿Cuántos estados del mundo con bloqueo energético pudieran estar estar funcionando como está funcionando la sociedad cubana, pudieran estar resistiendo, pudieran estar soñando, pudieran estar planificando, no hemos detenido nuestros programas, no hemos detenido nuestros sueños. Seguimos buscando soluciones, no estamos cruzados de brazos. Estamos haciendo una de las transiciones energéticas más grandes que se han hecho en época de revolución en medio de estos tiempos. Y lo que ha sido fallido es la política del gobierno de Estados Unidos durante todos estos años contra Cuba, que no nos han podido obligar. Que esa política es correcta, al contrario, el mundo todos los años se levanta por Cuba contra el bloqueo. Dicen de manera eufemística que el bloqueo no existe y que es una excusa del gobierno. Pregúntenle a una cubana, a un cubano si el bloqueo no existe, si el bloqueo no existe. Que sufrimos todos los días limitaciones, que cosas que podíamos tener una mejor situación siempre chocan con la limitación que nos impone el bloqueo. Dicen que el socialismo y el modelo cubano son un fracaso. ¿Y dónde dejan la enorme obra social de la revolución, que ha sido sostenida con una economía en condiciones de guerra y sometida a un bloqueo tan criminal como el que hemos enfrentado? Y así todos hemos sido capaces de garantizar para todos en Cuba educación gratuita, salud gratuita, el deporte como derecho del pueblo, la cultura como derecho del pueblo. Todo lo que se hace en Cuba se hace consultando al pueblo y con el pueblo participando.
So what he's saying is like, how many cultures would be able to survive this, countries would be able to survive this, and to still provide all these things as human rights for the people. And it's true, they provide things like, yeah, sorry, the caption's wild. But he's like, we managed to provide sports, culture, like all these things as rights for our people beyond just the bare necessities even. And he's like, our whole government is set up, run by people, for people. And so I think after seeing everything we've seen, all the people who do work in the government, what they've said about how their government runs, you see that that's true when he says that. Those aren't just like empty words. Bye, Corey.
Vamos a comparar nuestros indicadores sociales con los indicadores sociales de países ricos. Ese renglón social no se puede ocultar. Cuba es una amenaza a la seguridad nacional de Estados Unidos. La última formulación que hicieron como proyecto para la orden judicial es que Cuba es una amenaza extraordinaria.
He's talking about how Donald Trump has re-added Cuba to a terrorist watch list, saying that they're an extraordinary threat to like the safety and well-being of the United States.
Es inusual para los Estados Unidos. Los cubanos no agredimos a nadie. Los cubanos no atentamos contra nadie. Los cubanos que mandamos al mundo son médicos, maestros, constructores, con un método cubano de alfabetización en yo y pueblo. Después de pasar varias décadas de que Cuba se declaró en los primeros años de la revolución territorio libre de analfabetismo, 4 países latinoamericanos pudieron declararse libres de analfabetismo.
And also what he's saying here is he's like, we don't look, Cuba doesn't threaten anybody. They don't threaten anybody. They don't try to start wars with anybody. They don't try to kill anybody. What do they send? When Cuba sends people, who do they send? They send their doctors. They send their engineers. They send their teachers to give you literacy. They don't send violence. They don't send threats, right? They send help. That's what they send to the rest of the world. They send doctors. They send people to heal you, to make you better, right? They don't, they're, in what way are they posing a threat to absolutely anybody?
Es una amenaza para el mundo, para un país que otro, el día médico, que otro el día maestro. Ahí está nuestra brigada médica, ahí está nuestro programa de salud, ahí está nuestra ordenación cuidado. Ahí están nuestros médicos que fueron a los lugares que eran epicentro cuando se inició la COVID, como fue Italia, y después de darle el reconocimiento dicho de esos médicos. Pero nuestros médicos han estado en Asia, en África, en América Latina. Por eso somos una amenaza. O somos una amenaza por el ejemplo.
Marxist Gamer Zero says they're terrorists because they put terror in the hearts of the bourgeoisie that know their example makes communism look good. Exactly. That's why they have to spread all these lies about this tiny little country. All this tiny country's ever tried to do is help people. That's all they've tried to do. They've tried to send doctors to the United States, vaccines to the United States. We say no. We would rather let our people die than admit Cuba's good. It's wild. So we'll talk about COVID and Cuba during the health episode. So just so everybody knows, that was our 4th day of 9 days of Cuba content. On Monday, we're talking about healthcare in Cuba. We're going to do a deep dive. I'm going to be able to show you guys videos from local hospitals, local doctors, pharmacies, maternity wards. The day after that, next Tuesday, we're going to do a deep dive on their education. We're going to talk about their literacy campaigns. We're going to talk about their elementary schools. We're going to talk about their colleges. On Wednesday, we're going to talk about sanctions, the blockade against them and sanctions as a weapon. On Thursday, we're going to finish up Castro on Marxism-Leninism. And on the next Friday, we're going to talk about the Cuban-American population in Miami, Florida, and their influence over the American government. So that's what we're going to do. All of this is going to be available on YouTube. I could maybe upload just the whole video of the president. I'll see. The VODs are all going to be up. Yes. When we, just fair warning, somebody was like, oh, as a teacher, I know the education one's going to make me sob. Yeah, we literally had nurses, like, crying when we went on some of the healthcare visits. So, is everybody, does anybody have any questions about the Cuban government and how it runs, how it operates? You guys kind of understand what their mass orgs are. You understand their actual government. You understand their party. You understand, that their government members are just average everyday people. You understand the roles of all these things together, right? Just want to make sure there's nothing that we missed that anybody's a little unsure about. Or I think it's a beautiful country. And like when we say it's a beautiful country, we don't mean visually. Like Cuba is the living embodiment of the revolution. Those people love their revolution. And when you see these weird right-wing nut jobs, frankly, Cuban Americans in the United States trying to say they have a dictator, trying to say that their people are oppressed, trying to say you have no opportunity for political dissent. It's like, girl, who would want to dissent from that? Who would want to? Some rich guy? One business owner in all beige? They like their government. No, some people are like, maybe something else could be different because of the blockade, right? But just a reminder, that blockade was intentionally put in place to suffocate them by the U.S. government, right? The spirit of humanity lives in Cuba. Yes, they are the best of us. And all they want is for people to come together, right? They are very international. They want the liberation of all people everywhere. And that's what's a threat to the United States government. Cuba wants the American people to be liberated. And that is what terrifies the American government. Oh, we just got Raiders from Rob Rousseau. Hi, everybody. We're wrapping up. I'm so sorry. We're about to wrap up. But we could send you to Larry. We're going to send everybody to Larry, Raiders. Are there small parties and orgs in Cuba like the DPRK has? Yeah, I think that there are. I think there's like this one. Let me take a look at this really fast before we go. I saw like a list. National Assembly of People's Power. There are... I'm trying to find this like breakdown. I swear they have this other one. Mandatory Larry Raid, we're doing it. I can't find it right now, but there are smaller other kind of socialist parties like that. The MAGA guy who owned the store, is that one of the businesses that our Americans are allowed to shop at? I'm not sure. I don't think so. Because our group was like, we're going to make sure you don't violate any terms of anything. So we did not shop there. So I'm not sure if we're allowed to shop there or not. Organizing stream to be entirely about the USSR, Soviets, or maybe Yugoslavia's worker councils. That could be interesting to do. I would like that, maybe. It's fun. No, we're going to do a Larry raid. We're doing the Larry raid. Oh, Smash Ultra's leaving us. Yeah, there was a MAGA dude in Cuba. Yeah, we met him. We talked to him. Yeah. Uh-huh. Alright. So, let's wrap it up. We'll raid Larry. I'll see you guys Monday. Monday is going to be great. I'm just telling you right now. Monday's going to be all about healthcare. Cuba is world-renowned for their healthcare services. So it's going to be so cool. In what ways do their government structures differ from the DPRK? I mean, their committees for the defense of the revolution are pretty unique. I wonder if Larry would know if they have something similar to the DPRK. I haven't heard of anything like that. But they might. That'd be interesting. Okay, I'm going to heal up my voice. By Monday, with all the tea I'm drinking, my voice is going to be back and better than ever. Okay. All right, we're doing the Larry raid. Leaping Larry. Let's go. Everybody get ready. Vocal exercises. Maybe. All right, bye, chat.